Synthesis complete.
Alright, what's up everyone? All the people that are not here. Give me 1 second. Been kinda sickly-ish lately. Woke up, my stomach was not too happy with me, and that was an incredible thing to start off the stream with. Watch a few things. I think another lolcow is gonna be on at 3. Let's see what we got going on here. I can fix this. I don't know what I'm gonna play. I may do a little bit more grounded or something. I did want to watch this. Why is that on the opposite screen? My hair is like getting a mess. Oh well. You only get the authentic Evenglare in my streams. Okay, there's a new No Man's Sky update that's either about to hit. And it's a big one. They're all pretty fucking big, but this one's a fucking really big one. I can safely say this is probably the best space game that exists. So let's do that, and then let's watch the first one, or like the actual trailer. Yeah, and then we'll watch that one. But this is pretty fucking crazy.
Introducing No Man's Sky version 5.0.
Goddamn.
A complete refresh of the universe.
Holy
with new
shit.
technology.
Ooh. See that? This is a fucking Kingdom of Zeal shit from Chrono Trigger. You have the coolest thing is that you have the waterfall and it nebulizes down here. It doesn't like fall all the way to the ground.
New flora and fauna and new gameplay.
That's not the coolest thing, but damn, that looks good.
Planet variety is far beyond what was possible before.
This looks really good. It looks much more natural.
Oceans have waves, reflections, and more variety. Planets have wind patterns. Waves are dynamic and react to weather.
I would say this is surprising that we've gotten this, but if they're working on what is it called? Light No Fire or whatever? Whatever their other world generation game is, it makes sense that they would whatever they've got for that, they could I don't want to say just slot it over into this, but they're clearly masters at their craft with world generation at this point.
On the surface of the planet, there are
This is
new
amazing.
volumetrics and atmospherics.
The clouds look really good. Holy shit.
New cloud tech allows detailed clouds and weather conditions. In storms, waves, winds, and clouds interact for incredible immersion.
That looks amazing. Holy
New
fuck.
creatures
Oh,
are out
look
there
at
to
that.
discover.
That's so fucking cool. That creature looks so fucking cool.
New creatures are out there to discover.
Ah, shit.
With a combat-focused expedition.
Combat, nice. Combat focused. Anyway.
Our journey continues.
Jesus Christ. God damn. That looks good. Okay. Let's see the explanation, what we got going on here. Dude, this looks so good.
With every update, we just want to surprise.
God damn, man.
New
I want to
worlds.
find this planet. Oh, that's so cool. Dude, I love No Man's
New
Sky.
gameplay,
I'm just so surprised that they're epic.
new technology.
It's like the Hornets from Halo.
We're 8 years in now, and we still just want to do really big things.
Oh my god, it's so good now. The only thing that I have to say is, damn, look at that. Look at those mountains back there. Holy fuck. Is that they need gas planets, and if possible, they need cities. Like, they need large settlements on planets. I don't know if they'll ever get there. They need gas planets. And you can make, like, floating... Since they've already got, like, floating islands and shit like that, you could do that with gas planets. Jovian planets, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. God, this looks amazing, though.
Our
Holy
next
shit.
update is called Worlds Part 1.
Part 1.
I'm so proud of the team and the love they're pouring into it.
I am too.
We are completely refreshing the universe
It's
with new
so cool.
technology, new flora, new fauna, and new gameplay.
Dude, it's so good.
In No Man's Sky, what you see on screen is generated by the computer. And we're achieving a level of variety that just wasn't possible before.
This is amazing.
When we started No Man's Sky, I
fucked up a
wanted
little bit.
people to feel like they had stepped into the
They fucked up a little bit. But now the game is far and beyond anything that they ever even promised.
cover of a science fiction novel.
Dude, it's so fucking good looking. Holy shit.
Had to create a lot of new technology. New water technology can
Damn.
create waves and reflections, oceans. Looked so different to what we had before.
Yeah. I made an underwater base before.
Ocean
Holy
planets
shit.
feel completely new, and ships can now land on water. 6 months ago,
Holy
we
fuck.
announced Light No Fire.
Light No
It's
Fire,
this crazy ambitious game.
Oh, and I'm so looking forward to
And
that.
we've been working on it for years, and we've learned so many things. And it feels like we're almost bringing this technology back from the future.
That's what I was saying, right? If they're gonna work on a planet generation type of thing with light no fire, they're gonna slot in a lot of that to this. Obviously, they can't do everything from that to this. I mean, it'd just be way too ridiculous. But
Planets have wind patterns, waves are dynamic, and they react to the weather.
that's so good. Holy fuck!
My favorite thing in the game might just be flying through the clouds and out into space.
Those clouds look so good. I had always said, I don't know, like, if y'all were like this, but when I was in high school, and I guess junior high to a lesser extent, we used to always base games on what the water looked like. That was like the graphical benchmark. And I was like, after Half-Life 2 came out, I was like, man, water can't really look much better than this. And I was like, I bet they're going to have volumetric clouds. And that didn't necessarily come to pass. Like, nobody really cared about the clouds or whatever. But, like, I do. I've always thought about that. Like, judging how good a tech is from, like, we've got the water down, now let's get the clouds down. And this is some very, very impressive volumetric
Clouds for us are a unique challenge, right? You can see them from space, you can fly through them, you know, you can
They're tough.
land on a planet and look up at the sky.
Dude, that looks
You get these
so fucking
beautiful skies now with just tons of variety.
good. 'Cause you have to notice too, you have your like cumulus clouds or whatever. I'm curious if those go down during a sundown, like, or if they dissipate during a sundown, like regular like cumulus clouds do on the planet. You can also see there's like upper atmospheric clouds too. I don't know if those are like volumetric as these, or if that's like a skybox type of thing. But still, it looks so.
Sometimes a storm hits, and you know the waves rise, the clouds gather. You've got the atmospherics, the wind, all this technology comes
How could you not want to
all
play
at once,
this?
and there's nothing like it.
This is
On the
fucking
surface of the
amazing.
planet, we've added these new volumetrics. And you get rolling fog, rain, blizzards, little sparks coming up from the lava. It changes how planets feel, you know? It just makes them feel alive.
They feel way more alive in this.
Across these new biomes, we've added new creatures for you to discover. We're really trying to
That's
push
cool.
on the level of variety. It's not enough for us to just do more, you know? We want to create things that people haven't seen before. Expeditions have become a huge part of how folks play the game. And this new one is very sort of Starship Troopers inspired.
Very
It's something really different. It
Like those
takes you on a
asshole
tour of
bugs
some of these cool new
Metroid.
planets that we've added. Everyone is battling together. Progress is community driven, and the rewards are super
Keep
cool.
going around. Oh,
Something I love is to browse the screenshots that people share with us. I can't wait
that looks
for
really good.
people to explore this universe we've made with fresh eyes.
Stop. Stop.
The update is called Worlds Part 1
Part
because I guess there's much more to come.
I guess. Damn. Damn.
So it's been a very crazy 4.
I don't like that guy's channel. I don't like it. It's not for me. Not Asmund. I like Asmund's channel, but that other guy's channel is just ridiculous. Yeah, everyone's like spurging over this, and rightfully so. Holy shit, that is just fucking wild. This is ridiculous. Let's see. Ship water jets. Oh yeah, they said that. This shit is what. Oh, Ryan, you have to get off. I don't know what you're doing, but you gotta not do it. Oh man. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, we have the Diablo 4 thing. I haven't watched yet. Spiritborn reveal. Oh, this is live.
Class from a prior game, like a paladin or something.
Yeah, right.
We're gonna start this over. Actually, they haven't been on for that long.
Diablo 4, which will include a series of.
Hold on, let's.
The stone. You control nothing.
I'm gonna go and do the dual screen. 1 second. No, where's my main screen? Is it this one? Yeah. I need to rename this. Okay, I think we're good. Play some Zelda or something.
Maybe you're right.
It's like 40 seconds out.
Maybe I could use some help.
I haven't played Diablo yet either, since probably season 1. Hopefully it'll be pretty
Hello,
good.
Diablo community. I'm Adam Fletcher, Community Director for Diablo. Welcome to our Spiritborn Showcase, where we're doing a deep dive for this all-new class coming to Diablo 4, which will include a series of interviews, followed by Q&A from Twitch chat. I'm joined here today with Game Director Brent Gibson.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay.
We've been working hard to make something unique for Diablo, and we're finally here to actually talk about it.
Is it too soon for a update or an expansion? It's been what? This expansion's coming out in September, October, November, something like that, like a year and a half after the original game, and they just got the original game to where it should have been when it launched.
Brent, I can remember us at BlizzCon where we showed off our very first cinematic for Vessel of Hatred. Now we're actually here to showcase the Spiritborn for the first time. We're glad to have you back for the full reveal.
Thanks. We've set out to make an all-new class that comes from the jungles of Nahantu, an apex predator with a deep connection to the spirit realm.
It's not on.
So, without further ado, let's kick off this deep dive to the Spiritborn.
Only a few among my people can become Spiritborn. As
This
children,
is interesting.
the most promising face judgment in the mist. Our trial begins and ends with pain. Those who are not called are culled.
It's like
For the weak.
Spartans.
All paths end here. For the worthy, that path leads to power beyond compare, and a sacred charge to wield it well. Though the mortal world was designed to break us, our hearts, our minds, our bodies, there is another which makes us bold. We are without fear. We are without equal. We walk with the ancient guardians of the unformed lands. Their power is our power. Their cause is our cause. We forge unbreakable bonds in the spirit.
Seems like a witch doctor, which was kind of like a druid.
For we are spirit born.
It feels like it has too much overlap with druid. I don't know. That's my first takeaway with it. Why does it keep doing that?
Wow, and there it is, the first look at the Spiritborn, the apex predator from the jungle. Awesome to finally show it off, and what an incredible trailer. To talk more about the Spiritborn, we would like to introduce Eleni Rivera Colon, narrative designer on Diablo 4. Welcome, Eleni.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here to talk about the Spiritborn class. I'm also a little nervous.
It's okay. We're live. We're doing this live here for everyone. But obviously, Eleni, we just saw here in the trailer with the Spiritborn.
Why doesn't
we saw a little bit about that spirit realm. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that spirit realm is?
Yeah. So, I mean, to put it plainly, the spirit realm is a place where spirits go. It's this deeply spiritual place that's a byproduct of Sanctuary's creation. So, as you may know, the angels have the high heavens, the demons have the burning hells, and we have the spirit realm.
You know, we're hearing a little bit about the high heavens and the burning hells here, and players have actually seen both of those places specifically. Kind of like, what does the spirit realm actually look like for players?
Yeah, we really love this concept.
I don't know why that wasn't working
before. The
before.
spirit realm is shaped by humanity. So if that's the case, the foundation of that would actually be Sanctuary. So you could imagine being in the middle of the jungle and you're surrounded by these tall trees and these ancient structures. And when you cross over the veil into the spirit realm, you're going to see a ghostly reflection of just that. The big key difference is that you're going to see all the spirits and the creatures that exist there.
Yeah, there are these massive creatures that protect the realm from spirits they protect the realm and the spirits from corruption. So the Spiritborn class have this harmonious bond and connection with these massive creatures that are called the Spirit Guardians, and they work together to ward the land.
It's awesome to hear about the Spirit Guardians, and people saw them in the trailer a little bit there. Can you actually tell us a little bit more about
Are they each going to be like their own
if the
tree
spirit
or whatever?
realm is shaped by humanity, we love the idea that the guardians are formed from human belief. And so if you're trying to survive in the jungle and protection is a thing that you are pouring all of your belief, your hope into,
So they're
that
tulpas.
belief it's magical. It's got power in itself, and it can actually create a creature that represents that. It could represent protection.
They're tulpas.
Yeah, so as Brent is saying, the Spirit Guardians are this complex creation of Sanctuary's creation along with this powerful human belief. And Spiritborns devote their entire lives strengthening this incredible bond because these Spirit Guardians are powerful. It's this idea, right, of what these gods look like. And so they can help protect both the realm and Nahantu.
We saw in the trailer and some of the gameplay, people were, if you're playing the Spiritborn, you can actually summon one of these in there. Is that something you can do on demand? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, very early on in concepting, we saw this one piece of a simple warrior raising their staff above their head and this massive spirit creature forming behind them. And that really became the lightning rod to a lot of thought-provoking ideas. I mean, we knew what we wanted to do mechanically with the class, but that image really solidified that the idea of summoning a god into battle was really cool. And that actually became
Still think it steps on the druid too much. I really do. This could be a like a druid path
Became
or
the cornerstone
something.
for a lot of our development from then on out.
Yeah, so talking about spirit guardians and summoning them, the Spiritborn class can summon 4 spirit guardians. The first one that I want to talk about is Razoka, and this guardian manifests in the form of a jaguar. So the belief of courage and
It's a
ferocity,
jaguar.
striking on the hunt, attacking a kill with no fear or reservations. The second one is Balazan, appearing as this massive centipede. The belief is balance and persistence. So although some people might see it as fear, it represents harmony and balance, so the give and take of life. And then we have Quatli. The manifestation of this is a majestic eagle, right? So to represent awareness and finesse, soaring above it all, having keen awareness of its surroundings, and acting with intent. And then the last one is Woomba. This guardian manifests in a powerful gorilla, so this beacon of protection and strength, and a movable force that holds its ground and sustains under pressure.
So it's great because we've heard a little bit about the spirit realm. We've heard about these 4 awesome guardians. Can you tell us a little bit more about kind of the star of the show now, the Spiritborn itself?
Yeah, so I think before we really dive in, I want to talk about Akarat, who's really important with the Spiritborn and the Spirit Realm. For those who don't know, Akarat is this prophet that believed in the human experience and that it gives us this unique power. We have this light within us. And that light gives us the ability to question and to doubt and to challenge. When Akarat made his way to his mother's homeland in Nahantu, he felt this strong otherworldly presence, and he would spend a lot of time with one of his apostles, Isavete, trying to uncover what this mystery was. What was this feeling when he got to the realm, or when he got to the land of Nahantu, until he eventually discovers this veil, and that's the veil between the spirit realm and sanctuary. And he realized that this was this untouched place from neither angels or demons. They had never really had any sort of influence there. So Akrat and his dedicant Isavete would spend a lot of time studying, and he would be the first person and living being to cross this veil. And then after Akrat died, his apostle would then take on the mantle and then found the Spiritborn traditions that we know today.
You know, hearing about the Spiritborn, and of course, I'm sure this is a burning question from the community, but the Sanctuary has a long and storied history. Kind of, where have the Spiritborn been throughout all of this?
Yeah, so for anybody who knows the lore of Diablo, this region is no stranger to Mephisto, right? So if you go back to Diablo 2 and you look at the story there, his original soul stone was imprisoned in this place, and its presence corrupted the Zakarum faith, it corrupted the region, and the Spiritborn remember this. And so over the course of what's been happening in D4, they've decided to stay at arm's length out of fear that history might repeat itself.
Yeah, so like I said before, this is an untouched realm. It's pure. This is something so sacred. And with Neyrel coming back with the Soulstone, this is a huge problem for the people of Nahantu, but specifically the Spiritborn that are trying to protect this land.
Yeah, and at this point, with him back, they have no choice but to rejoin the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible to hear more.
Well, where were they
Spiritborn and where
before?
they originated from, and of course, thank you, Eleni, for taking us into the spirit realm in itself. You know, we talked about the new class and how that was created and what they've been up to. Next, we're actually going to take a look at how the art and concepts were designed.
Okay, that's all great, but I want to see like gameplay.
They become physical, but trying to find the best pieces of them and seeing where they fit. How can we manipulate them? How can we rearrange them in ways that make a really unique?
Excuse me, god damn it! I think I might be getting sick.
Once the animation team has that, and like they, again, they have a wide range of options that they're looking at. They start to figure out like where it fits for each guardian. So, for example, the gorilla is blunt force, lots of strength. The jaguar is cleaves, multi-hit combos, aggression. The centipede is like open palm strikes for applying poisons. And
so it's gorilla, jaguar, and centipede, and then you have the eagle.
Really precision movements and repositioning on the battlefield. So like they nailed it when it came to that.
You know, honestly, it's like the combination of all the things that we put together. We'd been talking about, it's like we've almost invented our own martial arts style for Diablo. And we'd been talking about this for the last few days with all the people that we've met with. And they actually said, hey, does it have a name? And currently it doesn't. So like for those of you at home, if you got
attack speed of all of its skills.
Start off with
Okay,
like the
here's
Jaguar being
gameplay.
Master martial artists,
Okay,
because they're
okay.
empowered by these spirits.
Here's
You'll see
gameplay.
parts of the spirits, but then ultimately with the ultimates, the spirits themselves will show up on the battlefield and they'll empower you and deal damage.
And it's really the core of the fantasy, right? Like if we talk about power fantasies, summoning the god into battle is the power fantasy for this class. And one of the things that I really liked about that is that we were getting a bunch of feedback early on about making ultimates more meaningful. And we were actually able to do that with this class ground up.
awesome. I know people are probably dying to know, like, okay, let's jump into some Spirit Guardians. So I think this is a great opportunity. Maybe we should start off with like the Jaguar being the first one. Bjorn, do you want to take us through the Jaguar itself?
Sure. Yeah, starting off, Jaguar is a great one. Jaguar
What time is it, too?
as we've kind of touched on before, it is sort of this manifestation of just like the hunter. It's exhilaration, it's violence, it's aggression. It's attacking repeatedly, kind of just constant pressure as it's going. It's got these ramping mechanics to it. It's got lots of kill streaks.
They're like the
mechanically
monk.
speaking, the way we've kind
It's
of
very
translated this,
monkey.
its primary focus is attack speed, and it chases that through a new keyword and mechanic that we call ferocity. This is a stacking buff that it can generate, usually via Jaguar skills.
It
that will
very
increase
much
the
looks
attack
like
speed
the
of all
monk
of
from
its
Diablo
skills,
3.
but it will also enhance other Jaguar skills, so you can use them more often, reduce their cooldowns, that sort of thing. Moving on to an example, I guess, of a Jaguar skill. First off, here's one we have Ravager. This is a new type of skill we're adding to the game called Incarnate skills. They all have a passive and active effect. This one allows you to maintain your ferocity at just like a minimum level, so you're all just like a little bit fast. But then when you activate it, you kind of go full Jaguar mode. It gives you additional attacks, kind of like whenever you hit something, it does an extra strike. So it can even turn like skills that are like deal a little bit less damage, they can now deal extra damage just whenever you hit something. Moving on to another skill, we have Rushing Claw. This one is the Jaguar's kind of primary mobility skill. It will dash you through a target and slash everything along the way. And the key to this one is you can kind of use it over and over and over again, like multi-strike your enemies. And then finally, of course, we have the ultimate, the Hunter. This will actually manifest the Jaguar onto the battlefield. You'll leap through the air. It's also a movement skill. And when you land, the Jaguar will destroy everything.
So it's just...
and it also has upgrades to kind of help chase the kill streak vibe. There's a chance to reset the cooldown after you kill something with it.
Yeah, so if you look at all of these things as a package, you start to see almost a combat archetype built into each Guardian themselves. And that was actually something that was really important to us. So if you were speccing into the Jaguar, it's important to those types of players who do want to keep the attack speed up, that do want to keep their kill streaks going. And you're going to see this as like a through line that each particular Guardian will have their own thing.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the fast, frantic gameplay, and I will say I have a little bit of bias towards the Jaguar for sure. But I know we want to go on to the other Guardians for sure. And for all our tanky friends out there, Bjorn, do you want to walk us through the Gorilla?
Absolutely. Yeah, moving on to the Gorilla. The Gorilla, core concept behind protection and defense. But it's not just like passive defense. This is a very active defensive play style where you're shrugging off the damage, but you're also returning it to your attacker. So it's really got this kind of core of like retribution also sort of built into it. Its core mechanic and stat that we work with is damage reduction. It chases this in two ways. One is through using block, sort of actively blocking damage, as well as a second new keyword and mechanic called resolve. This is also a stacking buff, but this one falls off whenever you get hit, so it's really important to keep stacking it and kind of keep stealing yourself and building your resolve back up, but as long as you have any stacks of it, you get the full damage reduction bonus. So moving on to just a couple examples for Gorilla skills. Starting off, we have Crushing Hand. This is their core spender skill. Kind of just does what it says. Will smash your enemies to pieces.
I still think it feels like
kind of neat thing about it is it's actually two separate attacks that kind of overlap in the middle. So you can sort of prioritize a single target and deal double damage to it. Another attacking skill that we have, this one's Payback. This one really leans hard into the sort of aspect of retribution that we have going on. This one will deal a large amount of damage, and that damage will ramp up the more something has hit you. So it's really good for just like ending a fight if you need to. But also like as things are hitting you, that will reduce its cooldown. So kind of you have this flow of like being able to sort of like end fights, but also kind of keep hitting as you go. And then finally, again, we have the ultimate skill, bringing in the gorilla itself. The skill is called the Protector. It creates a large protected area on the battlefield that will grant you barrier while you're inside of it, as well as several other defensive bonuses that you can spec into with it. And the gorilla will just smash any enemies that try to come and harm you while you're in it.
Yeah,
so they're all like
if you like that
AoEs or
bruiser
something?
archetype,
That's kind of what
like,
it
this is the build
feels
for
like,
you. It
maybe?
is definitely about
I don't
that
know.
give and take of damage. I mean, you'd said it earlier. Anyone who's been looking for a tank or a tank-like build in Diablo, this is the one that you're going to want to spec into as a part of your kit.
Yeah, it sounds like a really unique way of being able to, for,
Do they
especially
not
for
have a
tank players, to, like,
tanky
bring damage
build?
to enemies and stuff like that, which is
I mean, Barbarian,
so awesome.
right?
So
No?
next, onto our third
Actually, I
guardian.
haven't played a
Of course,
Barbarian,
we have
so I don't know.
the Eagle. Bjorn, do you want to take us through the
Absolutely.
Eagle?
Yeah, so the Eagle, kind of soaring above it all, we've got this guardian that represents precision and accuracy and kind of finesse. Its ability, its freedom of movement, like a lot of the movement that the class has is very aggressive, very in your face, and the Eagle really is able to kind of take that to another level and kind of go wherever it wants. In addition to that, it can also sort of like extend its attacks to sort of pseudo-ranged playstyle. Allows it to really like prioritize a target and sort of like hit from anywhere. So its core stat that it cares about is movement speed. That allows it kind of, like I said, able to kind of go anywhere it wants and sort of tactically reposition on the battlefield. And it also has several ways to sort of amplify its evade skill, adding damage, that sort of thing to it. So moving into just a couple examples, we of course have to start off with Soar. This is sort of Spiritborn's premier mobility skill. Takes you up into the air, out of the battle for a second,
I like that.
able to dodge mechanics with that if you need to. But also, because the Eagle is all about kind of those big impacts as well, it will create a target area where you're going to come down and make those enemies vulnerable so that it just amplifies the damage when you land. Moving on to another example, we have Razor Wings. This is a damaging skill for the Eagle. This one has kind of this cool back and forth where it sends it out, allows you to hit something at range, but because it also returns to you, it sort of rewards you for the tactical positioning on the battlefield, so you can sort of line it up so it'll hit different things as it comes back. And then, of course, our ultimate skill, the Seeker, bringing in the Eagle itself to just annihilate your enemies with damage. You can cast it anywhere on the battlefield. It charges up and then blasts off. The blast can be upgraded to be a guaranteed critical strike, and while it's on the battlefield, it will also make everything vulnerable for you. This is also like one of the first ultimates that we have, which will have multiple charges, so you can kind of use it back to back or like prioritize a target with it, and there's like a lot of player agency with that.
Okay.
Yeah, this is really for that tactical player.
It's fine.
where
They all seem
positioning
like
is
the same.
super important.
kinda.
You don't necessarily want to be constantly in the fray, so you still want to output that damage. Maybe you want to put it in a particular place in the encounter, but you can do it by going in and then you can get right back out. So for those players who really like that tactical positioning, that's what the Eagle is for.
Yeah, it seems like the Eagle gives you that extra freedom of like in mobility, so you can kind of move in and out, especially with things like Soar, which is sick to see for sure.
It's one of my
so
favorites.
unique for Diablo 4 for sure on that end. Last but not least, of course, this is probably our most unique Spirit Guardian, and probably one that I'm sure a lot of people are like looking at and going like, oh, this has got to be crazy, and that is the Centipede. So Bjorn, how's the Centipede play out?
Yeah, so moving to the Centipede. The Centipede is very unique. It represents this sort of abstract concept of the cycle of life and death, and the way we've kind of chosen to interpret that is that it's sort of this epicenter of attrition, but it's also like really about just kind of like this endless or inescapable sort of persistence, and that's like really bad for your enemies, but kind of really good for you. So its core mechanics that it works with that persistence is damage over time, poisoning, crowd controls, that sort of thing, but then it uses those things to sort of empower and sustain itself, so also like leeching life and that sort of thing back to you, sort of draining your enemies as you kill them. So moving on to just a quick example, Stinger is our core skill for the Centipede. This one does a large amount of damage in a small area in front of you, but the sort of interesting thing about it is that that damage will also echo out to any nearby poisoned enemies. So it kind of has this adaptive, like, dynamic like range that it has, sort of depending on like how much you've been spreading your poisons around the field. So it can like basically like hit the whole screen if you really want to. Another skill example that we have would be Scourge. Scourge kind of takes that.
And
Let's
Brent,
skip
like,
ahead a little
how does
bit.
itemization work with Spiritborn?
Yeah, we all know that itemization is the heart of the game, right? And
Yep.
As we've been
Better get it
moving
right.
through our itemization journey with this game, we've had a really great opportunity to fold in all the feedback and how that applies to the Spiritborn as we've been developing. And one of the cool things that we did was took the opportunity to actually lean into the things that you get from items and see how they build into the spirit's abilities themselves. So we're going to show a few examples of that. Now this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming, but we thought we'd do a really quick breakdown and show you what that looks like.
Yeah, so just hitting a couple examples, you know, we have added this large suite of Spiritborn legendaries and uniques to the game. But just to break down kind of some of our thoughts as we were working with them, sort of the types of legendaries you can expect to see. You know, one example, as we were just speaking about, sort of these hybridization things. There's a lot of different stats in our game, and sort of making them work together, not just like work together, but like be cool together. So we kind of have this category of items that will sort of interweave a couple of different stats. Secondly, we have our power augmentation legendaries. These just kind of let you take like your favorite skill and ascend it to its final form, and just kind of like go crazy with it. And then thirdly, we have sub-powers. These are sort of things like, we think of them like rogue grenades, barbarian dust devils. These are sort of things you can sort of build around. They're sort of almost like skills, but they don't exist in your skill tree as things you can put on your bar. And then finally, we have our unique items, which are there to enable you to sort of make the craziest builds you can think of. So moving on to a couple examples, just kind of one for each real quick. We have Tormentors. This is an example of a hybridization legendary. This one interweaves poisoning and thorns together, kind of in an interesting way that'll allow you to apply your thorns, you know, in a different way than just like having something hit you all the time. It's great. You can probably see the connection. Gorilla, Centipede, they'll love this sort of thing. Moving on to an example of a power augmentation, we have Bristling Vengeance. This takes the payback seal that we kind of hit on before. Usually it's like a smaller AoE like right in front of you that just hits one enemy, but this one really allows it to sort of like extend its range, hit multiple enemies.
They're not talking about
over an area.
This is only the class, right?
And then thirdly, we have an example of
Spirit Realm and like the corruption within the jungles during Diablo 2. Like, was he able to sense it during that time? I know we had talked about like the Spirit Realm being this pure and like untouched place. So.
Yeah, we can definitely assume that Mephisto knew there was something there. When it comes to the lore of Nahantu, there are a lot of protection that happened during Mephisto's corruption. He wasn't able to break through the veil, so that is.
I still don't like how they ended Diablo 4.
That's why it's so dire now. But definitely,
really don't.
he had this feeling for sure.
Question for not MVP: how does the resource for the Spiritborn work? Do they generate it like passively, or how does that work specifically?
Sure. The Spiritborn's primary resource is called Vigor. It does not inherently recharge passively. You'll generate it by using your basic attacks. But sort of like the key with Spiritborn being very customizable, like one of the first choices that you'll be able to make in your tree with your basic attacks is you can sort of like customize like how you will build the spirit beyond that, whether it's like by poisoning enemies or by blocking damage, that sort of thing, to really like kind of make the resource work the way you want it to work. And then later on, there are also some uniques that will allow you to further customize sort of like how your build influences the resource generation.
Awesome. I know people, we just talked about the weapons and stuff. And
I don't
like,
think that happens
of, like,
now. I could be wrong.
Using two-handed weapons for this class?
I basically only played like a Necro and a
The short
Druid.
answer.
It's kind of my...
the other question that we're getting is, is there like a special quest for
my
before you can actually start a Spiritborn or create a
with the game.
Spiritborn? Or are there quests that are maybe specific to the class itself?
Yeah, well, we're going to definitely be introducing the class mechanic similarly to the way that we introduced it with the other classes. As far as the beginning of the story is concerned, you know, we really want to jump straight into continuing the chapter of hatred, right?
The question is, or the answer is no.
We want to jump right into it, get right back into the story, and so we're going to pick up from the perspective where Neyrel left off.
Awesome. That was a question from Megara. I forgot to
no.
throw out the name. I do want to give people shout outs when they do actually ask the names. The Grim Knot asks, does the Spiritborn have ties maybe with the Witch Doctor in any type of way from Diablo 3?
Not at all. When Brent is talking about creating something new, that's what we wanted to do with the Spiritborn.
But it kind of does.
That also
right?
meant
It
really
kinda
diving
does.
into lore and figuring out a separation for freshness. We wanted to still bring in things that were familiar from D2 and just lore in general that we know about, but when it comes to
They
the
are banking
Spiritborn
hard on
class and the
D2, huh?
traditions of the Spiritborn, they're very new. You get a chance to explore it in the game, and you'll see that they're very different.
Awesome. Azeron Blood Moon asks, how much is the monk inspired into the gameplay of the Spiritborn?
Yeah.
You know, it's we
It's
always
like
look back.
it's a monk.
Find like a lot of reference, or we could be inspired.
It's a
by
monk
things
witch
we've made.
doctor thing.
But I, think
I
when you
like the
play
monk.
class, you'll see
I
it's
played the monk
extremely
a
different.
couple times. It's fun.
It's so unique. It's so fresh, and it kind of carves its own space in our kind of lineup. That after an inspirational point, maybe of looking at like martial arts at just the core, it just kind of goes off in its own direction and kind of.
Man, they really. It's not.
Oh, sorry. Go. No.
Well,
go
I
ahead.
definitely want to add
It's
to that.
not
like, I
bad
really
to
shouted
like
about
say
the
that you
fact
were
that
inspired by
we
it. The monk was
know
pretty
what
fun.
works mechanically in the game, and so we're constantly looking at inspiration for the existing classes, for the new classes on what
Yeah,
works,
you don't have. It doesn't have to be
what works
brand
best.
new. Like,
Take
I
that
mean,
inspiration
it is,
and
but
then like take a right turn and actually amplify
it's
it
not
or
a
take
bad
it to a slightly new
thing.
direction that makes it very different.
I know we have like
my opinion, anyway.
time for one more question. This is a question for everyone here. What is everyone's favorite spirit? I've already revealed mine, which is Jaguar. But like, what is everyone's favorite spirit guardian here for the Spiritborn?
I mean, I can start. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna say 2. I love the Jaguar as well. But it's just a little bit too chaotic for me, like inherently, and so I love to just like mix the eagle in there as well, just for a little bit more control, a little bit more like freedom.
Gorilla. I mean, when I saw it show up on screen, beat its chest, and it was just
They're-
awesome. It was like, that's it.
I knew it.
They're each
We're
gonna
like
say
wrestling
one
buds, you know,
that
we talk
the other
about
one
wrestling all
didn't
the time.
say.
I'm not surprised.
Like,
Nick,
all
as
of them are
well,
gonna
right?
get
But the gorilla
mentioned.
is not surprised.
My favorite guardians are Quatli, the eagle, and Balazon, the centipede.
Yeah,
I just
there you
love
go.
the poison, and it's sick. Like, it looks crazy.
Yeah, for me, Jaguar, like it started with that iconic piece. Yeah, sorry, we're gonna have to share a little bit.
Hold on a second.
But like the movement, it's such a pace changer for the game. Like once you get into it, it's got a very addictive flow, and so I'm all in on the Jaguar.
Well, it's awesome to hear everyone's favorite Spirit Guardians. I do want to thank you all for jumping in for this Q&A. Before we do close out the stream, we did want to let everyone know that we'll be sharing more about Vessel of Hatred at Gamescom this year on August 20th. But you'll actually have a chance
in like
to
a
attend
month.
Gamescom yourself and play the Spiritborn in
Ooh.
person. We're actually sending 5 lucky players to Cologne, Germany to play the Spiritborn at our
Ooh.
Gamescom booth in person.
Could they
Make
just
sure
send me to
check out our
Germany?
Instagram at
Like-
PlayDiablo and read our blog for full details on the contest after the show.
Okay.
Everyone on the Diablo team is
I just want to like
incredibly excited for
listen
you
to
to check
music
out the new
in
class
Germany.
coming with Vessel of Hatred on
I
October
don't really
8th.
give a shit
And of
about
course,
this.
you can pre-purchase the expansion now.
I mean,
Stick
I do,
around to check
but-
out our Diablo creators, Rax, Woody, Macro Bioboy, and Fame. They're actually upstairs right now, streaming live
What?
here at Xbox Studios with Spiritborn gameplay. Also, shout out to Xbox Studios for hosting us. We really appreciate it.
They have
And of
Rax
course, you
there?
can check out Kind of Funny Games.
He kind of
after
just
the stream,
shits
where
on
they'll be
everybody.
live chatting with Rod Ferguson, GM of the Diablo franchise. Brent, Eleni, Nick, Bjorn, thank you for being here
Okay.
to walk us through this.
I mean, that's fine, I guess. I'm not particularly excited about that because, I mean, I'm happy that they gave me Druid. That's all I really cared about. I'm a big Druid kind of guy. Let's see if anybody else is like condenses down into something easily digestible. I mean, it's fine. I might make one at some point. Man, Stylos is going hard on that Concord, huh? He's like the only person I've seen like that has anything good to say about it. Okay, let's see what DM
LA, where I was at the
says.
Blizzard headquarters. Me and some other content
He
creators
sounds a
were
little
there
better.
in order to test both the Spiritborn as well as
Than
the
he
little bit
did
of
the other
sneak peek at
day.
the new expansion for
He
Diablo
sounded
4.
pretty
Now,
rough
as we
the
know,
other
the new
day.
expansion is Vessel of Hatred. I was able to see some of the new strongholds, a little bit of the new area. Didn't really get to experience the new storyline or quests because they kind of didn't want to leak, you know, the story, basically. It makes sense. But we were able to at least see some of the new areas, some of the new visuals, some of the new monsters, and of course, what you guys really want to talk about, the new class, Spiritborn. So I'm going to break down the trip in its entirety, the Spiritborn class, as well as a little bit that we were able to see of the expansion. So day one, arrived, just socialized with the other content creators. Nothing too much to talk about there. Got to meet everyone. I've talked about this already in the previous video. Everyone is super nice. So content creators, 10 out of 10 people. The next day was a long day on campus. Started with a campus tour, get to see all of the statues. They actually have their own museum there, which is cool, which shows right now I think it's Warcraft Rumble related stuff. Last time I was there was Diablo 4 related stuff, but they have like a million different Diablo statues on campus. Get to see where they actually work. Then they took us into the testing area, where in the testing area there was a whole bunch of computers and they had 4 pre-programmed builds for the Spiritborn for us. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself as there was actually an introduction video that they go kind of hype everyone up, explain both a little bit of the lore of the Spiritborn. Effectively, the Spiritborn is sort of like it sounds like. They are Spirit-born. They have spirit protectors. They actually summon. There's 4 different ones. There's Centipede, Gorilla, Jaguar, and Eagle. And you actually
I think I'd probably pick the Eagle if I ever did make
so
one.
you can pick 2 different spirits
Maybe
that give you passive
Centipede.
bonuses. And there is skill trees with those 4 different types of abilities. There's like Gorilla abilities, Jaguar abilities, Eagle abilities, for instance. And most of the build is going to be related to synergies between these 2. You can of course focus down on like all Gorilla if you want. Gorilla's like a defensive
When does
one.
season
Centipede
5
is like a dot
start?
one. They call it Centipede Balance, whereas Gorilla is sort of like tanky. I forget the actual, I think Protector or something is the term they use there. Jaguar is like a fast multiple strike type of character, and then Ego is about mobility and sort of more range. They have these cool feathers that you throw out that like can get summoned back and stuff. So there's multiple builds they have pre-programmed related to which one of these different spirit protectors you're really mostly interested in. Now I say Spirit-born and spirit protectors and all this. Effectively, Spirit-born's the class. Spirit protectors are the dudes you're summoning, which are like spirit gods. There's like a spirit realm that's sort of
like
you're able to
Black
contact
Panther
with as a
shit,
Spirit-born.
you know?
They show the whole trailer in the beginning where there's a whole bunch of like kids walking out to the forest, and it's only the strong will survive, and basically all of them except one die. You're the Spirit-born, and it's the one that's able to interact with the spirit world and summon like these multiple different types of creatures, like a Centipede who's balanced, the Gorilla and the Jaguar and the Ego and all that. So that's where most of the lore background of it really comes from. Now I'm not like a massive lore guy, so I'm not really gonna get into the lore too much.
I like
That's
the
just
lore.
like my very
my
generic
favorite part of
overlook of
games.
it if you just want the Spirit-born explained. Now about the Spirit-born, before we dive into all of the different spirit protectors and types of builds there are, the Spirit-born, during the interview, it was asked why the Spirit-born. Basically, there's a lot of questions related to the Paladin. You know, like where's the Paladin?
Yeah.
But they were asked why is the reason for the Spirit-born, and were you guys excited about the Spirit-born? And the answer was an interesting one. And basically, what it breaks down to is because it's a class that's sort of a clean template that hasn't been done before, it doesn't really pigeonhole
feels
them
like a
to having
monk.
to have certain type of abilities. For instance, if you bring a Paladin, a Crusader, what have you, it's pretty much predetermined what kind of abilities that is going to have. You might expect.
And I love me, my paladins.
You know, these types of
Everyone
abilities.
knows that.
And so when they're doing something so out of the ordinary, like the Spirit-born, that's, you know, not out of place, but out of the norm for Diablo, then it gives them the ability to come up with kits, items, you know, skills, paragon trees, and builds, and ways of synergizing those builds together that haven't really been done before. And that was one of the things they were excited about.
They kind of
the
have.
Spirit-born. So when
I
we talk
mean,
about the 4 different
come on.
spirit protectors, the Centipede, the Gorilla, the Jaguar, and the Ego, it's going to sound very different than the other classes,
It looks
because
like it
very
feels
much
like the
is.
monk.
You can go
It
all the
just
way in the
does.
Centipede, all the way in the Gorilla, all the way in the Jaguar Eagle, or you can have a combination of any or as few, as many of these as you possibly want. And there's unique and legendary items that will fit each of these different playstyles. In fact, there's even one that's like a Frosty LaRue troll build where there's an aspect that having more basic abilities, like using only basic abilities, having more of them, actually scales your damage based upon how many different basic abilities you are using. So there's some pretty crazy type of builds that might end up being potential. Now, I'm not saying all of them are going to be meta, but there's going to be a pretty big variety, at least in playstyles, that you can choose to mess
I
around
like
with.
actively choose to play non-meta builds. I think it's more fun.
You know, there's, for instance, like the
Because
Centipede
everyone
one
plays the meta
gives you
build. Like,
slow
what's the
and
fun in
damage
that?
reduction as the passive, right?
Ow.
But then the Jaguar one is going
Ow.
to give you something completely different. Because you're mixing these passives, there is
Shit.
the ability for you to not just focus on only going solely down one of them. In fact, there's uniques based upon actually mixing multiple of the different types of protectors, and there's a unique helmet based upon actually going full down into only one of them. Now, we didn't find all the uniques during the playthrough. This is just what we heard from the interview, for instance. But if you want to go all the way into Centipede, all the way into Gorilla, all the way into Jaguar, all the way into Eagle, that's possible.
Stop
or if you
saying
want to
it
mix
like
as many
that.
different ones as you can,
Sounds
that's
weird.
possible. And during the interview, which I'll be posting, they talk about how one of the reasons they were excited to make the Spiritborn class was because of the ability for them to go very unique. So what does each one of these different Spirit Protectors / class synergies really have? So they gave us 4 pre-builds, which were locked at level 30. We weren't able to go past level 30. There wasn't like infinite resources where we can generate any builds we want. They had sort of pre-programmed builds. Now there was the Centipede, Jaguar, Ego, and Gorilla related builds, and I'll show you corresponding footage with each of them as I talk about them. Now the Centipede is the balance class, and is the reason they call it balance is it's supposed to be like you're damaging them and feeding yourself. So there's lots of aspects and
like
skills
a
related to
vampire
dotting
kind of
them
thing.
and then regenerating off
Yeah.
of the dot, etc. I will say Centipede was easily my favorite. It had this giant summon that kind of stays with you and shot like a laser beam. It was actually really cool. And the dots would spread and explode also on crit. So you would be dotting people, it would explode and spread around them, and you're constantly, one of the aspects is you'd be summoning these swarms that would hit everyone with dots. It was the first time dots in Diablo 4 actually felt good. In fact, if you watch other people's videos, I'm just going to take a wild crapshoot here and say most people probably like Centipede. Because when I was there talking to everyone was like, Centipede seems OP, like Centipede seems great. Now, I will say, hold on just a moment though, because this could be the type of situation like we had with the beta, where we were only able to play the level 25, game felt great and all that, and it wasn't until later that the in-game stuff was acknowledged. So because this was so early, we didn't have Paramount boards yet, there wasn't a full deep dive into the class where they only gave us like 2 legendary aspects to start, and we had to find the rest as we went. Because of that, it's not a true like tier list. We can't, because of level 30, say Centipede's the best out of all of them. But from the playthrough we did, Centipede felt very, very, very good. And there is pairings with other aspects or other spirit protectors, I should say. For instance, the Gorilla with the thorns paired with Centipedes, because some of the aspects had synergy between what they both scale off of, like thorns, for instance. The Gorilla is a super interesting one because of how tanky it can be, as well as how the defenses scale the offenses with aspects like having more armor makes you basically convert that into damage. Having lots of different thorns aspects, having more ways that your thorns actually apply different percentages onto people. You know how there's that one thorn aspect that it does like 200% of your thorns in AoE or whatnot onto minions? Well, they have more of those thorn related aspects coming into the game. So there is a significant increase in a defensive / offensive mix being able to play together. Gorilla had some pretty cool features too. For instance, there's one that when you would get stunned, you just don't become stunned. You become like unstunnable basically, and then you can sit there and just constantly spam the ability that otherwise has a cooldown. You like go on like a roid rage of like just spamming your move. So there's a lot of thematics around it. Like the Gorilla, the way the Gorilla comes in, he like comes over your head and like smashes basically. So thematically wise, the Gorilla's on point as well, just like the Centipede was. And that's going to be a consistent thing that I'm going to bring up when I'm talking about each one of these sort of builds or class specs or whatever you want to call it, because that's definitely consistent. So the Jaguar was a lot of people's favorites, probably second only to the Centipede. And the reason is because it was fun, and it also was hyper mobile. So it's got a lot of like teleporting to each one of the different minions, for instance. And
I mean,
it
looks
really
like
fast,
the
rapid
monk.
attack.
I'm sorry, it
so it
just
felt
does.
like you were really blasting through. I mean, I think I was killing faster with the Centipede, but the Jaguar felt like you're warping through. It felt like a rogue, for instance, if that makes sense. Whereas the Gorilla maybe felt like a really tanky barbarian or something, and like a Thorns Barb or something. And then the Centipede felt like maybe like a poison creeper druid, for instance. And then, you know, so you have a very different style of play. In fact, I would argue that between all of the classes, Spiritborn probably is going to have the most variety in terms of the way it feels to play each one of these. So if you like multiple attacks very quickly, if you like basic attacks, if you like, the multi-hit strikes and to be able to teleport through minions, that was definitely Jaguar. And they definitely keep with their thematics. In fact, the armor itself, one of the things they mentioned when they were talking about the thematics and sort of showing the
setting and
classes before we
scenery
got our
looks
hands
pretty
on
cool.
it, was that each one of the classes like armor, like the aspects that are related to that, so Protector, Centipede, Gorilla, Ego, Jaguar, each of those aspects that relate to that end up looking like that creature. So if you're wearing like the Jaguar ones, the transmog that it looks like is you look like a Jaguar, or if you're wearing the Gorilla one, you kind of look like a Gorilla, or if you're doing the Centipede one, like it kind of looks like a Centipede. So thematically, it's all very on point. So the Jaguar is definitely like full-on melee Andy. You're right up in the face, you're attacking fast, a little bit squishier, but faster attacks, lots of damage. Like that's the whole point of the Jaguar, is supposed to warp through the packs and getting rewarded for kill streaks type of situation. And it leaves us with the Ego. For me, this was the least favorite one, but a lot of people did actually like it. You're summoning in a big Ego pretty commonly.
I'd say the
you're
good and
shooting
the
out like these
bad.
feathers that can like boomerang back classes. So that's just like a kind of a
So
very
we already
quick
kinda
breakdown of each
watched
of the
all that.
4 different protectors. So what did I like and what did I not like about the class? Okay, so just right off the top, Spitfire to you, the variety, absolutely the variety is pretty cool. Like I said before, each one of these different like specializations feels very different. The aspects seemed like they're trying to bring in new styles that haven't been done before, with like just tons of thorns. I know thorns barbs is a thing, but they're trying to make thorns like actually even better, which I thought was pretty cool. Defensive becoming
That is
offensive.
good. I like
the
thorn
ability
builds.
to synergize things like thorns into your offense. Like Gorilla and Centipede are supposed to synergize together, and like Jaguar and Ego for the mobility plus the multi-hit. Like they're supposed to make it where you can kind of mix match each one of your different types of class passives, because the class passives are a big part of the class. So I definitely liked the variety for sure. Visually, I thought the class was very unique and cool too. I liked the visuals. I thought maybe a little mildly cheesy. It's like, big gorilla, smash.
Yeah.
The Centipede was different. I liked that. I thought it was just going to be like a snake or something, like very stereotypical. But they went with a Centipede. That's pretty cool. Ego soar and come down. So like maybe it's a little generic, but still cool, visually appealing, though I agree with Crip, very visually demanding in terms of your space on the monitor, but that's pretty cool too. I think people are going to actually like it because it's actually a fun class. So number 3 for me, variety, visuals, and fun. It's actually a fun class to play. Again, only played level 30, but I enjoyed it when I was playing it. It was quite fun. So I think most people are probably going to have a fun time playing the class as well. What I not like about the class, well, I hate to double dip here, but yeah, visual clutter is definitely an issue. I just got to say it because I think a lot of us are thinking this. It's not a paladin, so I think a lot of people want other classes. It's something fresh and unique, which is cool. I'm excited for fresh and unique.
You got to give
Probably just
people
not
what
the
they
class
want,
people but
though.
it's not necessarily a negative for the class itself, but a holy class would have been pretty cool, but honestly, I just don't really have like a ton of negatives around it. I had a good time testing it. I sat here and thought for a minute before I hit record again, because I was thinking like, I should be able to drag something up. I'm having to try a lot harder to drag up negatives related to the class more so than positives. You know what I mean? Like the positives come fairly quick, and the negatives actually take a little bit of a while for me to sit here and process the brain. So instead of trying to drag up 5 things to make it even or something like that, I'm just gonna say there's not a lot of negatives. Maybe it's a little cheesy. Maybe a little cheesy. Jaguar, Gorilla, a little Power Rangery, probably.
That is not a negative. That is a positive.
I think that's fine. I think it fits Diablo. We're returning to Nahantu. If I hadn't played Diablo 2, I might not understand like the whole jungle vibe as much, but I did, and I understand, it fits. And it's also not like some super like childish class. Like the cinematic is pretty brutal. Like they send a bunch of kids in the jungle and like everyone fucking dies except one guy. Like it's pretty like Cole the weak, the strong will survive. It's
very
be a
Spartan
Giga Chad
baby.
And live, you know what I mean? The dudes are shredded. It's not a
Giga
druid
Chad
type of
and
situation
live.
over here. So like
It feels like a
they're kind of full
druid.
Giga Chads. Like I actually kind of like the class. I'm sure some people are going to say that it is a paywalled class, in which it is, and I guess the response to that would be that it is extremely consistent with the Diablo franchise itself, but you yourself will have to decide after watching everyone's videos, and I'd recommend watch more than just mine in order to get an informed opinion, and watch all of the ones that myself and other people come out with talking about this more in detail.
That shouldn't be
decide
an
if it's
issue.
worth $40 or not. I'm not going to say whether or not it is, because it's different for everybody. If you're asking how much I like the class, I would say that I think a solid 7.5 is a fair rating. I liked it a lot.
That's okay.
A little cheesy. I would give it a higher rating, but I got like less than 2 hours of gameplay
Yeah.
in a
How can
early
you
game
really
account
rate it? Yeah.
that didn't get to do even any of the in-game we already have or anything. I don't really get to give it a fair score. I don't even think 7.5 is fair, high or low. I'm just taking a crapshoot of what I'm guessing here because
From
it
what
was
he
a very
played.
short test. I
Yeah.
would say it would have been a little bit nicer to have closer to like 4 hours and maybe like a level 30, a level 70, a level 90 build or something like that. But maybe they couldn't show the Paragon trees. Maybe it wasn't
That
ready.
is
I don't
true. I
know.
was
They didn't
thinking
give any
like it's
reasons,
only
but it
level
was a very
60 or
early
70,
playtest.
right?
So I'm going to
But
be
it's actually 100.
very like put an asterisk on my 7.5 rating. Good, borderline great. I thought it was actually fairly unique and cool. Couple caveats, and definitely not a full rating because the class is like we did not get enough time to give a fair assessment. I just want to make that underline that point. It was a very quick test. It was definitely for promotional reasons. And while they did fly us all out there, like I don't know about the other people, but I was not paid to be there. Just to be clear, this is not a paid video. This was pretty much they fly basically everyone and their mother out there. Let's be honest, there was like 100 people there, including press and everything. So this is like a promotional reel for them. It's a marketing campaign, is what it is.
Not Evenglare.
I understand that, which is probably why it was so limited in scope. And they had a lot of people to burn through there, so that's just the best rating I can give it as it currently stands, or at least my best understanding of it. I would definitely wait for more information if you're looking to purchase, and in my personal opinion, it was a lot of fun. Now, let's talk about the expansion portion. I would say I was pleasantly surprised by I was only able to go to 2 areas. There was a couple crashes, because it was not, there was one area that you couldn't go, or it would crash, and there was one time where if I'm going in a mountain to party, like it would crash as well. A couple bugs. To be expected. It's very, very, very early access, the most early of accesses, so it would make sense. I had similar crashes, for instance, like PoE testing as well, so there's a precedent for crashes in these types of tests. But I would say that
it doesn't matter.
Actually encouraging playing the new areas because it did look visually different. One of the questions I asked during the interview, and we all got a chance to ask questions, and most people were hitting them hard with like the paladin stuff and balance related issues, so I didn't really have to tackle those.
They know, like, you know, the paladin's going to be the
like
next,
audio,
the
visual,
next
like
thing.
just stuff I'm curious about for myself personally, and like, how did you guys, in fact, the one question I did ask, which I'm going to talk about now, is how were you guys able to develop like a jungle, a colorful area in a game that is so notorious for being monochromatic, and a return to darkness is sort of the catch-up on that. And
it's
so
a bit much.
their response to this is effectively that just because it's a return to darkness doesn't necessarily mean that they can't add portions of color into it, and that the portions of color they do add will pop out more. It
still does
look
sort of that, very,
monochromatic type of vibe, which I agree with.
Muddy and brown.
One of the things I actually quite liked about it was we got a chance to test a new stronghold, and not only did it have really cool visual appeal, but it had some like unique mechanics. So they're starting to change things up a little bit, or at least
what's
have some
going on?
differences.
Yeah,
like,
Link Between Worlds.
Another stronghold, go kill 3 demons, you're done.
It's my
This one
favorite
actually
2D
was,
Zelda.
like, dark everywhere you go, and it had like a very deep underwater type of vibe where there's iridescent things, and you had to hold up a torch or a lantern that you brought with you, and one person could bring the lantern, the other person could DPS, for instance, and that's how you would have to see around the dark. And then you would light like torches as you would go, and then eventually the boss at the end was a dark related mechanic where you had to light torches and fight him within the light. So it was fairly unique, not just going to kill this blood boil because he's got a line attached to it and he's immune if you don't.
A little bit of color
me
anyway.
and Riker were both immediately impressed by, hey, like these are real mechanics, like they're actually doing something here, which was really encouraging and actually visually quite different. So, shout out to them for that, because the stronghold that we went to was actually very fun, enjoyable, and very different, and actually fairly long as well. So that was just one stronghold. I don't know if
he doesn't
sort of
have that
your,
up here.
best
Okay.
side up front type of situation. But if it continues that level of visual appeal, as well as that level of I won't say depth, but changing it up in terms of mechanics and stuff throughout the rest of the area, I think it'll be quite a fun expansion. I was able to see some of the other areas. Some of the areas didn't look too different.
Still is a
Some
bit
of them definitely had that jungle
muddy,
vibe. There was this really cool area I went to that had like this giant.
I guess
glowing
that's what
top. It seemed
Diablo
like it
4
definitely
is.
Or cauldron, I suppose, that would probably be part of some main quest line or something that we haven't seen yet. So the visual appeal in the new area is definitely there. New monsters, obviously. It's the expansion. It's a new area. Everything you would expect within the jungle and in the underwater theme that was in that one area, etc. Don't need to name them. They're pretty much all there. Everything from mosquitoes to snakes or whatever you want to call it. And there were some throwbacks. Actually, one of the things that we noticed was in the loading screen, there was a portion where it sounded like they were playing Diablo 2 music, like real quickly to you, like that.
That's kind of cool.
Like from the guitar, just like teased you with it. And I don't know if we're going to get like full nostalgia mode D2 music or not, but I did ask them about that in the interview. I stated that, it seemed like there was a throwback to Diablo 2 music. Are we going to be receiving Diablo 2 music, or
it's a good
that
question.
Type of, question? And their answer to this was interesting. He didn't say no, but he threw out, basically said, well, there's going to be some fan service for Diablo 2 in particular. Like, there's going to be some callbacks and some things you will recognize.
They're like really heavily leaning on that Diablo 2.
So if you're a fan of Diablo 2, I would
riding those
expect
coattails.
there will be some fan service for you in there, especially since we're going, back to Act 3 effectively. And having recently replayed through Diablo 2 on live stream, you can join us at twitch.tv/StarthMicrotransaction. We stream pretty much every day at this point. It was really obvious to me that there definitely was going to be callbacks. I mean, that's sort of the whole point. We're returning to this. Mephisto's coming back. This is the area, the Mephisto Soulstone is basically from, anyway, to my understanding, recollection.
I really don't like.
So there's going to be a significant.
I really don't like the way that they went with Mephisto at the end of Diablo 4.
I didn't get to see a whole lot of the expansion, just some of the new areas.
Favorite.
Really, just enough to see visual appeal was the thing, and there's definitely some new unique mechanics and new monsters, etc., new bosses, things of that nature, new strongholds, all of the things you would expect from an expansion. And the new class, I got to try out the new class, had a good time with the new class. Few caveats. Definitely didn't get to play enough of either the expansion or the new class to have a real informed should you buy it or not. I went back in that for you guys if you're considering the purchase.
I mean, I'll get it. I'll buy it for sure.
Us enough time to test it in order for me to give you a full yes, buy it now. But I will say, with that being said, that I actually quite enjoyed.
I haven't not
through that.
ever
it was only
not bought a Diablo game.
Something anyway, in about an hour and 45 minutes of it before I had to start transferring my files. But I actually did have quite a good time. I enjoyed my
since like 1995 or whenever the first one came out.
Than I thought I was going to be. So if you can deal with maybe a little bit of cheese around the new class, a little Power Ranger, I'm the Gorilla Spiritborn, and I'm the Centipede Spiritborn, and I'm the Ego Spiritborn, then you might actually.
I love that. That's not a negative to me. That's like a firm positive. I love Power Rangers. I grew up on Power Rangers.
Worried that when the class comes out, you think it's just not for you, I think most people will be able to find something they like about the Spiritborn. With that being said, the fact that I enjoyed my time, keep in mind, this is a giant promotional marketing thing that they did by bringing this all out, press out and everything. So I'm sure they're, expecting people to have a good time because, we got wined and dined and go to Dave and Buster's and all kinds of fun things. But I did legitimately enjoy my playthrough. So just everything up
for him.
There. So for whatever that's worth for you, subscribe if you want to. If not, don't worry about it. I'm going to have a lot more videos talking about both my time there.
Very cool. I mean, I'm not like super excited about it. It feels like the Monk and Witch Doctor put together, to be completely honest, but that's not a bad thing. God. Okay, what else do we got? We got some lolcow shit later. Furries hacked Disney and leaked everything? What the fuck?
Hello, guys and gals. Me, Mutahara, and I often don't talk about Mickey Mouse, ladies and gentlemen, a whole heck of a lot, but boy, we gotta talk about that Disney hack, ladies and gentlemen.
Disney hack?
1 terabytes of information.
Wow, that's a lot.
The world to download. Now, late one July evening, Disney employees had to see something from a group known as No Bulge, where they said, "Hey there, folks, it's us again. Yesterday, we leaked a small database. Now we leak the big guns. 1.1 terabytes of data.
What the
10,000
fuck?
channels on Slack. Every message and file possible dumped. Unreleased projects, raw images, and code. Some logins, linked to internal API web pages, and more. Have fun sifting through it. There's a lot there, and there's a lot to gather intelligence off of." So it wasn't just conversations. I mean, we are talking apparently dog pictures
What
shared
the
by
hell?
employees. And again, one of the things they
This is
said
like-
was, bet they never imagined taking down Club Penguin servers would cause this much shite. So yeah, Disney gets absolutely
What?
goat seed effectively.
Oh,
And you know, the
shit.
story is actually hilarious. Somehow more funny
What?
than the furry hack. Okay, and speaking of furries, I decided to see what kind of a group behind this. Who is this group known as Null Bulge? Now I have to censor this just a little bit. This is an image of a lion, okay? It's not your Aslan the tiger from Narnia. You know, he's got a bit of a bulge, so to speak.
Oh,
A
I know
bulge
what he's...
so big, I
okay.
have to put a mosaic
Weird.
effect.
It's weird.
Otherwise,
It's
I'm
weird.
sure this video could get hit.
Furry
with a,
shit's weird. I'm
community
sorry you
guideline
can
strike,
do it.
okay? It's
You
a
have
little
every
bit-
right
it's a-
to
it's
do
a-
it,
it's
but
a
I have every
lion
right to think
talk,
it's really
okay?
fucking weird.
So this group is Null Bulge, who is a hacktivist group protecting artists' rights and ensuring fair compensation for their work, marking yet again another story of furry hackers basically making a joke out of billion-dollar companies like Disney. So according to them, they asked,
So
"You
why
hacked
did
me.
Disney
Why would you do that?
fuck with them?
We're sorry we
I don't
had
know.
to do it to you, but we only do it if you've committed one of our sins." Now, what kind of sins go against the Fur Bible? Crypto promotion. We do not
What?
condone any form of promoting cryptocurrencies or crypto-related products and services. So yeah, they're looking at you, crypto influencers. AI artwork.
Okay.
We believe AI-generated artwork harms the creative industry and should be discouraged.
Yeah, because furry art is all incredibly unique and doesn't look the same. Like every 500 million fucking furry pictures look exactly like they're done by the same person. I think the AI artwork in this instance like does more creativity to that community than the community itself.
Any form of theft? Do you steal from Patreons? Or you committed a sin and now you are hacked? So as I say, their whole goal
That's
is to
funny.
protect artists across the world. Our mission is to enact ways to ensure
By
that
harming
theft from
other
is
artists
reduced
that
and
work
to
at
promote
Disney.
a fair and sustainable ecosystem for creators. Our hacks are not those of malice. No. That wouldn't be Jemmy. But those to punish those caught stealing. Big and small theft meet the same fate. Be wary where you get your content
So
from,
cringy.
because we will work tirelessly to develop and implement solutions that protect the rights and livelihoods of artists in the digital age.
By
Ladies
shitting
and
on the
gentlemen,
rights and
their whole
livelihoods of
job
Disney
here
artists.
is basically to protect, as you can read, artists. Okay, that's basically what it comes down to. Now, why would this group, this furry hacking group, attack Disney?
Yeah.
Well, that's because Disney has basically been in the news for, being in this cross, fire between artificial intelligence, especially generative AI, and of course the rights of the people developing and producing creative content.
They're not gonna like my generative AI
If you've
from
ever followed what has effectively been happening with Disney, they've had entire
from my Zelda
writers
shit,
like
huh?
Neil Gaiman, Tess Gerritsen,
shit.
basically going up, forming a group known as the Disney
shit.
Must Pay, which is again a group designed to help Disney pay royalties for best-selling novelizations of Star Wars and the Alien franchise, right? And again, royalties are important. In the day of online streaming, in the days of it, obviously paying for royalties is exactly what these artists want. They want these companies like Disney that are making millions, if not billions of dollars in revenue to pay a fair share to the people that effectively allow some of the top executives at Disney their cozy and comfy lifestyles, okay? Without these artists, without these people producing the content that we grew up enjoying,
So they're gonna put their livelihoods at risk?
put in,
That's a weird way of
Disney
saving
should
them.
not be allowed to enrich themselves. That's basically the general idea of it, right? And of course, there's also other big situations. You might have heard of something known as the SAG-AFTRA strike, where artists were effectively actors, so on and so forth, were actually fighting against things like artificial intelligence regulations. Or more importantly, using, an actual actor or actress's training data, they could generate synthetic actors based on them, and basically these people wouldn't be regulated. Now, obviously, consent is an issue, copyright is a massive issue,
Yep.
but these are things that have to be answered with serious regulation down the road. Everything that we've seen until now with these unions and whatnot are effectively just like stopgaps, okay?
Oh, shit.
Just because a union basically wins in the short term doesn't mean that these companies aren't going to try using AI in the long term.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's kind of
they
the
are.
general understanding of why this group was targeted. That is the context as to why this group Null Bulge used against them. Now, it's interesting enough to understand how this hack could have happened. And this is where it goes into the absolute Looney Tunes of fucking hilarity, okay? Now, Disney has actually dealt with serious hacks before. For instance, back, just like a couple years ago, when Disney Plus, you can go onto their Reddit and literally look at people who had to deal with hacked accounts. Information that was allegedly grabbed and sold on the dark web. User accounts that were hacked, sold on the dark web in repositories, and this caused pandemonium for, again, people who were subscribing to the Disney Plus service. So one hack is bad, okay? But now when your entire organization gets a 1 terabyte hack and leak of unreleased projects, it can be fucking catastrophic, okay? Imagine investing hundreds of millions of dollars into an IP,
I didn't mean to do that.
and then all the information, all of the actual IP that you were working on, especially unreleased material, just gets leaked out to the world, okay? It's kind of the same situation to Grand Theft Auto 6 when like a whole bunch of its like information was leaked out. And they were lucky that just, debug videos from like years of development footage were brought out. Imagine if GTA 6 source code or entire scripts to the game's storyline were leaked out. It could cause Rockstar to basically abandon that version of the game and restructure entire things.
That is almost exactly what happened to Half-Life 2. Like the nearly complete version of Half-Life 2 got leaked out, and then Valve basically changed around most of the game. Is crazy.
Another multi-year long delay on GTA 6, and then hundreds of millions of dollars basically thrown into a fucking
That's a huge thing too,
just because of an actual hacker. So sometimes companies get lucky in that instance, sometimes they don't, like Disney in this situation, because a lot of this information seems to have actually been pretty legit. So again, when you look closely into it, some of the actual stuff that was leaked.
Is that like a weird frowny face or something that you always use, I guess?
And a bit of the new stuff that's been floating around.
5
the
in the
way
morning.
that the actual hack worked was using a Trojan horse malware, right? So basically, you run a piece of, Trojan horse on your system, and it allows backdoor access into your system. So basically, a Disney manager, yes, a Disney manager of software development, by the way, okay, somebody that knows that this is wrong. This is not some Bob in accounting running a fucked up PDF file and then getting infected. No, this is somebody in software development. They downloaded a video game add-on. You can't make this shit up. Billion-dollar company.
This is ridiculous.
Compromised by somebody
Holy crap.
who doesn't want to pay for a game mod, in which the group had apparently hidden malicious software and gained access to Disney Slack. So obviously it was in this situation that once they had gained access, they could gather all the, they could do their little, intel gathering and then download
That's
a
ridiculous.
bunch of the stuff and then
That's
leak it to the
fucking
world.
ridiculous.
Download at least 1 terabyte's worth of information, crazy enough as it sounds. So Null Bulge is known to hide malware in video game add-ons and cheap AI image generators. So if you're cheaping out and you're, pirating video game mods, which are kind of controversial topics, right? Like people have always said, why do I got to pay for a video game mod? If you are absolutely, raising hell against that, you might be under the crosshairs of this company. And at this moment in time, it seems like this Disney manager who, as Disney is investigating this, once this guy is found out, I'm sure they'll probably kick him out of the job,
Disney
because
minus,
this is catastrophic as shit.
Yeah,
Now,
this
I looked
is
up,
one of the
Reddit
biggest
posts a
hacks
month
I've ever
ago
heard
from
about. Holy
one
crap.
user on
This is ridiculous.
r/ComfyUI, and here they actually talked about this group Null Bulge. So a group named Null Bulge is spreading malware ransomware through faked, leaked BeamNG mods, okay? Random AI stuff like Comfy UI nodes. So for anybody that doesn't know BeamNG,
Yeah, I
this
don't
is
know what that
BeamNG, the
is.
game. It's kind of like a car physics game where, you know, if you ever have been on TikTok and you've seen like videos of like car crashes of like whatever miles per hour, it's all recorded off BeamNG, okay?
Huh.
So basically, from what it's
Did not know
alleged
that.
here, somebody had went to a mod that was hosted on a site known as Pixel Drain. Now, unfortunately, they provided an actual like sample. I wasn't able to download it because
This is like so niche that. So like somebody from Disney wanted a BeamNG mod and then they downloaded it and booted it on their computer that has a bunch of Disney access on it, got everything from them. Is that what's going on here? Like that's such a weird vector of attack. Yeah, I guess. I've never heard of BeamNG. I don't really give a shit about cars or anything like that. So maybe it's
it was
I
probably
guess
either
it's this
taken down by the
big thing,
user,
I guess. I don't
or
know.
it actually exceeded the date of its posting, which is like 120 days. So, anyways, what they had said was an example of the attack they've recently done that includes AI stuff is Comfy UI LLVM Vision Incident. They claimed responsibility on their website and GitHub, along with leaking Rob Laughter's passwords, right? So if you don't know this by any imagination, basically they were targeting, again, these cheap AI stable diffusion tools on GitHub and basically spreading malware that people would download and get infected by. So one person who did the actual analysis a month ago said that the
Okay.
LLVM node author
Like a
part of
terabyte of
changed
data
the
is a
README to make it
lot.
look like it was compromised. But the truth is, those malicious wheels have been in the node since the very first commit. So I've analyzed the malware inside the LLVM Vision nodes. It uses Discord webhooks to steal stolen data. So one of the analysis over here was sending PC
Discord.
specs, IP addresses,
It's gonna
and
be
what
the death
data
of
is
everybody.
stolen, sending API keys for OpenAI, and then sending the stolen Discord data. And all of this is done through webhooks on Discord. So if you ever see this kind of stuff, or you know, report it entirely to Discord. Let them shut it down underneath their networks right there and then. But again, what's important is this person also said that this README was made to look like it was compromised, but if it already existed, maybe it wasn't this Nullbridge group. And again, the OP in this situation posted from an account for the first time in 3 years to
Interesting.
implicate this Nullbridge group, right? Now, obviously, bit of a disputed piece of information right there. I mean, maybe it could be the video game mod. Maybe, you know, the researching that has gone on could possibly, you know, implicate this group or not. Who really knows entirely? It's hard for me personally until I get access to these samples myself and check. For me, it's always just kind of like, you know, these people doing their own research. I wish I had the samples right there and then. Especially the sample that was allegedly used, the video game mod that the Disney manager had downloaded. Now, the thing about hacks like this is obviously it sucks whenever unreleased information comes out there. But I think it sucks even more when employee personal information that can put livelihoods in danger or at least make these people more susceptible to scams, especially people that really don't have control over Disney policies, are ultimately affected.
That's the
too.
big thing.
Obviously,
Like
activism
they're like, oh yeah,
always
we're
puts
for the
people in
artist, and
crosshairs,
then
like it's going to happen.
some
especially when
artists
you're
are
fighting for a
probably going to
cause
lose their
in this
jobs
digital
from
world
this.
that we live in. But yeah,
More than
Disney
likely.
apparently has been hacked. Okay, 1 terabyte plus of information out there, and if this
is
hack
so
is to
much.
be believed from their own words, bro. What the fuck? 1 BeamNG mod and you cost Disney how much in grief? That is the most insane part of the
It's a
story.
lot.
Okay, it's not the
Yeah,
fact that
I
this is
agree.
like
I
literally
agree
the
with them.
second furry group I have talked about in less than 7 days.
Don't fuck with the
fact that
furries.
this all happened because allegedly 1 Disney software development manager downloaded a BeamNG mod, potentially, or any video game. Could have been for fucking Minecraft. Could have been for anything. Could have been for Club Penguin private servers. And decided maybe it's not advisable that I put that in like a virtual machine. Or maybe if I was fucking smart, run it in a separate computer that is not connected to anything related to my work Slack. Okay, it doesn't seem like it used any vulnerability from Slack or any of these associated softwares. So yeah, if the
Yeah, they just like
you know,
booted it up and
employee is
modded it
responsible
and
like
let
that,
it in. It did. It
they're
wasn't even
probably
like
going to be fired
anything.
for serious gross negligence.
Yep. Oh,
But yeah,
Mudar's
ladies
dying
and
too.
gentlemen, honestly, wild stuff. If you like what you saw, please like, comment,
That's
and subscribe.
fucking
Just like
wild.
if it
That
doesn't.
is wild. That is 100% wild. Oh, it's 3. Let's see what Lolcow has. See what Boogie's doing now. We covered it last night. I'm too deep into it now. Or is this just the video that was edited? Yeah, this is the video that was edited. Okay, I thought this was like actually live. Yeah, Boogie got real fucked up from that. I think it's all performative art though. There's no way like Boogie's gonna be gone for more than a couple of shows, if that. Their whole like premise of Lolcow Live is that kind of shit. Like, why would you get rid of that? That's so stupid. That's what makes them money. Let's see. I thought they were gonna do a live thing and I was gonna watch it. I kind of messed up on that one, huh? Halo 7, Future of the Flood. I don't even know what they're doing with Halo anymore. Halo is like Overwatch. They were handed that on a golden platter and they fucked it up so bad. I don't know how you can do that. It's so simple to do correctly. Wait, what is this?
Oh, Jesus.
The cars are just hitting people? That's...
Oh.
Oh, you were standing in the middle of the road. You
This is the
probably
best
shouldn't have done
part.
that.
He tries to stop the car. What are you doing?
People do not have a healthy respect for
Why
cars
do you-
like they
what
should.
What are you thinking?
People are...
Spider-Man, yes, what are you... What?
People... Like, when I drive, like, in a parking lot and people get the fuck out of the way, like, even a little bit, they do not have a healthy respect of knowing that, like, a 2,500-pound car can easily annihilate them. Like, it's wild to me. People are way too calm or way too comfortable in being around shit that can easily kill you.
Oh, it's like my car. Oh, man.
Wow.
I love how everybody's cheering, too. Get off my car, you fucking bitch. Oh,
These
man,
people are
this
so
is good.
stupid.
They get him out of the street. Yep, there it is. You're so resigned, I know. Even the biker was angry. Think about how fucking obnoxious you have to be to turn cyclists against you. That is fucking bad.
Yep.
Even cyclists are against you.
Yep.
Why do the cars slow down? Probably because it might mess up the car if you run them over.
Pretty much, yeah.
The same as you don't want to hit like a deer. Yeah. Might dent the car. Yeah, some of them are fat. Trying to push the. You're trying to push the car. What do you think you're doing?
They look, yeah, they do look goofy.
Probably 5 of the strongest dudes in the entire world couldn't push back against a car. It has like 700 horsepower. Do you know how strong a fucking horse is? Think of 700 of those. What are you thinking? Are you insane? 700? The car's okay, it has 70? Okay, let's say it has 3. That's still too many.
Yep. You're not stronger than a horse.
Yeah, let's say if it has 3, it's too many. So 15? Too many. 70? Way too many.
That's funny.
What's this? What happened? Sorry, I didn't see it. I was distracted. Yep. Kick the
Holy shit.
Kick the phone out of his hand, watch. That was impressive. Look at this, watch.
Just the phone. Didn't hit his head. Interesting. These people are stupid. Protest all you want, but don't fucking block people from like getting to work and shit.
Whoa.
Oh shit.
Oh my god. Oh man. Should have used oil, not water? Yeah. I love how this guy has a skate deck, but there's no wheels on it.
It looks like, yeah,
Why
that's
would you
weird.
have this with
What
you?
is that?
Did he plan this? Why would you have, like, I mean, because for snow?
Nah,
No,
snowboards are way
He just
bigger.
bought it? Maybe you're right.
Yeah, he'd probably gonna make his own. That's funny.
Let's get back, yeah.
This...
Damn you, Exxon! Why would you do this to me?
It's funny.
Uh-oh. I love how every single person who's the reality check here is a balding middle-aged man. It's the same thing with this one too.
That is pretty funny.
Bro, like he just cut through it. Oh my god.
He's not dealing with people's shit.
Well, it's not bald. Yeah, that's not balding, bro. Like, yeah, he's
That
all
is
the way.
bald, yeah.
You're right about that.
Just, oh, these are oil protesters. I thought they were, like, political protesters or whatever. Or maybe they are. Maybe some of them are.
This guy's like, are you fucking kidding me? What the fuck are you doing here? Get the fuck out. What are you doing? Why are you here? He's shocked it's even real.
Of course he is. People are dumb. You make more pollution. Yeah, he's actually right about that. That's funny.
What a fucking moron, man. Oh man, what
He's
a
making
dumbass.
people use more gas
This
to
guy's a
like
real
go around
dumbass.
them.
I'll tell you why. He thinks that he can explain.
That's also
to
true.
An emotionally driven, virtue signaling, upper middle class,
That's
privileged
also
white
true.
girl. He thinks that he can explain logic to her for why she shouldn't go out and virtue signal and act like a victim.
Yeah, that's true. He's right.
How could he possibly think that would work? That would never work. And bald, yep, true.
And bald.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I love how, by the way, Have you guys noticed that every single one of these clips are white people that are just inconveniencing average, everyday minorities trying to live their lives?
Also true.
You guys notice
Good
this?
Good point.
Holy fuck, how annoying.
Good point.
All white people? Yep. Guys, I'm sorry that we keep doing this, okay? I'm sorry. This is... At the next white people convention, I'll try to put my, my voice in for not doing this anymore, okay?
Yeah,
I'm sorry
just
about this.
Stop. Just stop. Why do people...
Yeah, I
don't
don't know why we keep doing this. I know it's annoying, you know.
None of this is going to help their cause at all. In any way, shape, or form.
Way strong as fuck, yeah. God damn.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Nope, next.
They're not going to cause any kind of change because they're not...
I don't think that she's that strong. I think she's
I'm not
grabbing
gonna
them by
say
their
that.
hair, and they are letting her pull them because they don't want her to pull their hair out. I think that's what's actually happening. Yeah. Because she knows, bro. It hurts a lot? Yeah, I bet it does. No, I love
Shit,
these
I can't do
videos.
that.
This is some of my favorite stuff to see. It is so fucking obnoxious.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate these people. They are the most sanctimonious, performative, annoying, obnoxious, privileged, virtue signaling pieces of trash, and I love seeing them get fucked. Whether it's by people pushing them, hitting them, running them over, or putting them, ideally, in jail, which is what I think should happen.
That is
fucking
pretty
hate
funny,
them.
yeah.
That's right. And I'm not sorry. I hate people like
They
this.
are doing like the minimum amount
I'm
of
surprised
shit
nobody
that
maced
they
them.
to
It's
make them
probably
feel
illegal
better.
here because this is a lot of these I think are
And
in
this is
Europe.
not going to do
And in
anything
some
for their
places
cause.
that's not allowed.
It's actually going to hurt
Based,
their
not
cause.
Sorry. Yeah, that's just the way I feel. I hate these people. This is comparable to porn? No, it's not. It's better. It's fucking better. Absolutely. It's not, and it's not even close either. Keep that in mind. Holy shit.
Yep, that's pretty funny.
Somebody call.
That is pretty funny. Let's see what else. Keemstar, Destiny's going on some kind of fucking rampage. Weekend. Destiny's the biggest online clown. Change your mind. Custom Xbox will get me sued. We got. I may watch the Halo thing. I don't know. We'll see. What time is it? 3. End of X-ray astronomy. Oh yeah, all the scopes are getting very old. One Punch Man. Blues saxophone stuff. The new Sega console could change everything. Maybe. Rando race. I could probably do a randomizer race. Not against Oats and Goats. They would annihilate me, but that might be fun. New Overwatch hero. I don't really care about. Please fight back. Pink Floyd. Woke VTuber's brains explode over Trump surviving. Okay. No, I'm not going to watch that. Not right now, anyway. Can't. The infamous terminal velocity disaster. Ooh. I think it's raining. Yeah,
After
it's
seeing
raining
the
here.
terminal velocity ride on TV show Bert the Conqueror, 12-year-old Tegan Marcy was instantly captivated. In July of 2010, she finally got her
Interesting.
opportunity to go on
Yeah.
the ride. Little did she know, the events that would take place would change her life forever. In a moment of absolute madness, Tegan was plunged down to the ground without the safety net being in place. But how on earth could this possibly happen?
Oh, I've heard about
Let's
this.
talk about it. This is the infamous terminal velocity disaster, the fate of Tegan Marty.
I actually I don't know a lot about this, but I've heard about it.
Tegan Marty was born on September the 4th, 1998, to parents Dr. Alex and Julie Marty in Parkland, Florida. There isn't much information about her online, but we do know that she was a shy, yet adventurous
12 years
kid,
younger than
and
I
she
am.
was well liked by her classmates at Westglades Middle School. One of her classmates said, "She was a really nice girl, and she did everything that she could to help other people." After seeing the terminal velocity ride at Extreme World on TV show Bert the Conqueror, she convinced her parents to take her there on holiday so that she could have a go. Extreme World is an amusement park located in the Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin, renowned for its unique adrenaline-fueled rides and attractions. The park is infamous for pushing the edge, and their standout attraction was the terminal velocity. The terminal velocity ride at Extreme World was a unique attraction that drew thrill seekers with its extreme approach to freefall experiences. It was designed to provide a unique freefall experience without the use of traditional.
And they got
safety
launched
restraints
up
like
without the
harnesses
safety
or
net?
bungee
That is
cords.
how?
Instead, the ride
I guess
relied
he's
on a
gonna
net
tell us.
to catch participants at the end of their fall. The rider would put on safety gear and ascend to a platform situated around 165 feet above the ground. After a safety briefing and mental preparation, riders would be lowered through the platform and experience a pure freefall. The key safety feature of the terminal velocity was the net system at the base of the fall zone. This net was intended to safely catch and cushion the fall of the participant, reducing
Exactly.
the impact force and preventing injury. The
It's
net
called
had to
impulse.
be precisely positioned and maintained to ensure it functioned correctly. This net was supported by a series of airbags positioned underneath it. The bags had to be properly inflated at all times in order for the net to be in the right place.
Yeah,
This
you
meant
gotta
that
have
between
like a
rides,
double,
one of the
triple,
operators would have to check them to make sure
like,
they were all inflated.
safety precautions in
On the
place.
30th of July 2010, whilst one of the ride operators inflated these bags, disaster struck, which would change Tegan Marty's life forever.
Did
In
they
July
die?
of 2010, Tegan had finally made it to the park and could not wait to go on the ride. It was just after noon when her turn finally arrived. She was put into the harness and the ride operator released the trap door. Tegan was now suspended around 100 feet in the air. Ride operator
Yeah.
Charles pulled the ripcord, which sent Tegan crashing towards the ground. Little did he know, the worker blow had not filled the airbags that lifted the safety net into place. In other words, the safety net that was supposed to catch her fall was not even there. She landed on her back on the floor below. Charles watched on in
Ooh.
horror as he realized the mistake he had just made.
Yep.
One eyewitness said, "I heard a mum screaming, and I looked down and there was a little girl on the ground, and the mum was saying, 'Please don't let my baby die. Please don't let my baby die.' Her father and mother were the first to see her hit the ground. Her father
Oof.
recalled, she was basically unconscious,
Oh, yeah.
not moving, and laying flat on her back with blood coming out of her ears and nose. Just a horrible,
not good.
horrible scene. At the moment she fell, and I heard that loud thud, I just assumed she was dead." Her mother said, "I saw her fall, I ran to her. She was bleeding out of her ears, mouth, and nose." Tegan was now unconscious on the ground, her parents
Wow, I'm
holding her
terrible
as
at
they
this.
waited for the emergency services to arrive. Her mother said, her eyes were rolling back in her head, and her lips were turning
Jeez.
purple, and I couldn't feel a pulse, and I said, "Tegan, it's Mummy, stay with me." Witness Judy Norris, along with Tegan's father, gave the girl CPR as she lay on the ground.
Damn.
An air ambulance arrived.
Her
and
eyes were
transported
open
Tegan
there.
to the American Family Children's Hospital. She was put onto a ventilator and was in critical condition. The police then closed the ride, and an investigation
On your
was launched.
back, too. The fun feels like my back
After
right
examining
now.
the ride, the
That's a
airbags,
bad
and the
joke
net,
to make, but
it was
my back
determined that
actually
nothing
does
was
hurt.
wrong with the ride itself, and that operator error had to be the cause.
Yeah,
Commerce
they fucked
officials
up real
reported
bad.
that the ride was last inspected on June the 28th, with no violations found. They also mentioned
Of
that
course
the ride
not.
had undergone annual
They didn't fucking fill up the airbags. Nothing was wrong with the ride. The ride was operating as intended. It's the people that weren't.
inspections since 2004, and there have been no accident reports during that time.
Yeah.
It didn't take long for the park owner Bill Anderson to indicate that error was to blame, and he said that ride operator Charles was absolutely devastated. Charles had been a long-term employee at the park, and he wasn't found to have drugs or alcohol in his system.
Sure.
The ride operator on the ground was quickly ruled out. The State Department of Commerce report released claimed that the operator at the top of the terminal velocity ride, Charles, had failed to follow protocol when Tegan Marty was lowered down as the safety nets were not in place, and he was not given the thumbs up. He was charged with first-degree reckless injury. According to the criminal complaint, he didn't look for or get the signal that the safety nets were in place, and he totally blanked out
Oh my
when Tegan
gosh.
hit the ground.
This is so
Charles's
difficult.
defense lawyer said, he's charged with being reckless in a criminal fashion. It requires prosecutors to show that he made a conscious disregard.
Wow, Dad.
He engaged in conscious disregard.
They're gonna
of
take my
substantial
shit away from me?
death. He went on to say, obviously, any mistake by an operator in his position could be fatal,
Asshole.
and what happened to Tegan Marty is
okay.
awful. He's devastated. But whether
I don't
it's
think-
criminal or not,
No, I
is
guess
a
I do
different
need that
question.
hammer.
And it's really, ultimately difficult for many people that
kind
I've
of annoying.
spoken with to understand why he was even charged. In 2011, Charles pled no contest to felony second-degree reckless injury. This ended the criminal case against him. He was convicted and only made to pay $268 in court fees. He was not sentenced to prison or forced to pay any other fines. The family of Tegan Marty sued Extreme World, and an undisclosed settlement was reached whilst Tegan was still in the hospital.
Damn.
The doctors
He had to pay
confirmed to the parents that She had
$200.
suffered swelling on her brain, multiple severe fractures of her pelvis and spine.
That's it.
and
$200
lacerations to her
for that.
spleen, intestines.
Dude,
and
I'd be
liver.
pissed.
Despite this, Tegan was strong and remained stable. Whilst her daughter was laying in the hospital bed, her mother said, "Any little sign I take as a miracle," squeezing my hand and then regaining some squeezing in her right hand. We don't know what her deficits are going to be. We don't know if she's going to be paralysed. Thankfully, Tegan suffered no brain damage, but the recovery would be difficult. After spending 1 month at the American Families Children's Hospital, she was transferred to Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami, Florida. Tegan would spend a further 2 months here, doing various physiotherapy and rehab. She had to learn to walk again, but she was strong. During this time, she had surgery to repair her spine and pelvis. After a few months, she was able to move her hands and toes. After 3 months of being in the hospital, she was finally able to return home, but her recovery did not stop there. At first, she would have to do physical therapy 5 times a week, before it was reduced to 3 times. And a year after her fall, she spoke and discussed her recovery with CBS News. She told the media that her recovery had been very hard, but she was doing good and feeling good. Tegan was now able to walk with the help of a walker. The reporter asked, "Did you ever think you would make this much progress?" In which she replied, "Yeah," with a smile on her face.
Good for her.
She also said that the support from her
Good for
friends
her.
and family is what kept her going, and thanked
I'd have given
everyone for
up.
their ongoing support.
I'm a little
Her mother
bitch.
said,
I just fold
"From
over
where she
like
was
nobody's
and where she
business.
is now, I can't believe it. She is continuing to get better and better and better. She is a fighter. She wants to get better. She is not giving up. I'm proud of her." After a year and a half, Tegan returned back to the American Family Children's Hospital, which saved her life, to thank them. According to reports, she walked through the doors with her walker, dropping jaws as hospital staff and reporters were left in awe.
It's
Another
good. It's
story I
definitely an
witnessed that I found
inspirational
pretty
ending for sure.
Is that the actor Charlie Sheen heard about Tegan's story and wired her $10,000 to get her a support therapy dog. This
Oh,
was to help with
wow.
her rehab.
Charlie Sheen. What
I
the
wish
hell?
Tegan
The random Charlie Sheen charity ad. Good for him. I think Charlie Sheen did like kind of turn his life around a little bit after he melted down, which is also inspiring. I remember that. I was in college. I remember I was in my dorm room, which was called the Lumberjack Lodge, and I was watching on my TV. I had like this 720p flat panel TV. It no longer is with me for reasons, but I remember him talking like, "Oh yeah," like he had cocaine. He's like, "Oh, I got tiger blood in me," or whatever. Man, he went down real hard, but damn, good for like. They said this was in 04, so this was before that. Before he like went batshit insane.
and her family all the best. As always, this is not an AI channel, I do everything myself, and if you appreciate my work, subscribe, and if you want to go the extra step to support the channel,
definitely sub to them. I will throw this, actually, as I speak, I'm going to put this in a document. I need to go and put the other ones in a document too, but I don't, you know, I want to give credit where credit's due. I want to be those moocher channels. This is interesting, though. I just found this guy's channel. I've barely watched, like, any of his stuff. It seems really good. I mean, it's all terrible stuff. It's called Disasterthon, True Horror, but all of this stuff looks fucking wild. The infamous vortex pendulum disaster. Oh, wait. Have I think I've seen something similar to this where there's this like swinging pendulum that's spinning around and it like scrapes the bottom of the ground and people are thrown off. It's like pretty messed up. I don't think this is that.
On the 24th of October 2013, disaster struck at the North Carolina State Fair when the ride known as Vortex suddenly started up without warning, throwing bewildered members of the public to the ground.
Dude,
when the investigation was
insane.
launched, speculation into how this incident could have happened circulated, with many left confused, as the ride had been operating since the late 1990s without fault. These questions would soon be answered by investigators who found the ride's safety mechanisms had been tampered with by the new owner. But what happened leading up to it, and what happened that day? Let's talk about it. This is the infamous Vortex disaster.
Why hasn't anyone... this just occurred to me. Why hasn't anyone made like a sim game where you can build your own rides like this? I know we have like Planet Coaster and everything, but this seems to be like an easy slam dunk to make. It's just a bunch of spinny shit that you could like attach parts to other parts and have them spin all around. I don't think there's a game like that. Huh. I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, these would certainly be less complicated than a freaking, like, roller coaster, but... Because, like, in Zelda, like, I build spinny shit all the time in, like, Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know. That's so weird. I've never thought of that before. Huh. Maybe there's not like... They should just add it to Planet Coaster. It's... Anyway, huh. Never mind. I don't... I've just never thought of that. And I'm like, I watch this stuff all the time. So, oh well. Interesting. I gotta
On the 17th of October 2013, the 114th North Carolina State Fair opened their doors at 3 p.m. to the public. The fair was scheduled for 10 days and was advertised as their biggest and best yet. The North Carolina State Fair, held annually in Raleigh since 1853, stands as one of the oldest state fairs in the United States. Spanning 300 acres, it showcases agriculture.
I've been to North Carolina once, not the state fair either, though.
Also offering entertainment, food vendors, and various exhibits. That year, Joshua Macaroni, who had partnered with Family Attractions Amusements, was in charge of some of the rides.
I hate this boss.
He had recently broken into the traveling amusement
He's gonna
ride
take my
industry.
shit back. I gotta go get that bottle.
He had bought the Vortex, a popular
This
ride
is
in Europe,
stupid.
which had been operating since the late 1990s. The Vortex ride was created by the ride manufacturer Mel Park in Italy, 1997. The ride is what is known as a swinging pendulum, a ride consisting of a pendulum suspended from a central axis.
Yeah,
the ride was a staple at Europe fairgrounds after debuting and would run without issue during its 15 years there. Riders sit on seats at the end of the pendulum.
A sandwich? I don't know. It does look like
It
a
gains
bunch of like
momentum and eventually
burgers or
swings
something.
to a high point and spins in the air.
It's dumb.
Vortex was a textbook example, with 2 passenger carriers containing 16 seats each.
I'm gonna go to
Each
Kakariko
passenger
Village
carrier
and
is
get
linked
that
to a vertical arm
that bottle.
and connected to a horizontal arm, which is then affixed to a central base. The setup without carriers looks like a T, while with carriers it resembles a balanced scale. During the operation, the T
That
part
looks fun,
rotates
though.
along with the carriers, causing them to invert.
This is like some dynamics problems that I used to have to do. God, I do not miss that class, but you have like so this thing itself lifts up at an angle and then this rotates around there and then the arms perpendicularly rotate here. Not that you can see my mouse, but on the right side, and then the actual carriage of the people rotate on the same plane of rotation as the big ride itself. That is fucking wild looking. That looks like fun.
The T part rotates along with the carriers, causing them to invert. Safety restraints included an over-shoulder harness, along with a metal lap bar for each row. Once restraints are locked, a light appears on the control hub showing that the ride is safe to operate. During normal operation, the operator starts the ride by turning on the switches and adjusting the speeds. To end the ride, the operator would turn off the switches and release seat restraints. The ride isn't supposed to start if any restraints are open. The North Carolina State Fair was one of the last.
Ooh, now I want to
stops of the
play
ride's
Park
debut
Attack. I
season
might
in
play
the
Park
United
Attack here in a
States.
minute.
The tour took the Vortex across America and arrived on truck in North Carolina on the evening of October the 15th, 2013. The next day, the ride was transported to location and was inspected by Jeff Cole and Bart Evans while still on the trailer. They informed the owner Joshua Macaroni that there was a crack in the footwell of the ride which
The
needed to
guy's
be
last
repaired
name
to
is
pass.
Macaroni.
The
It's funny.
inspectors watched the ride being assembled according to the manual's instructions, checking for potential hazards at each stage.
I already
and there was
got that.
some.
I'm stupid.
The
I'm thinking of A
inspectors
Link to the
observed
Past.
Joshua putting the ride together and noticed he was torquey in the bolts and not the nuts. They advised him accordingly, leading him to find a different wrench to torque the right parts. The crack was then fixed, and the ride was set.
See, this is some shit. Like, you have to, like, be really, really, really meticulous about the job that you do. Because you cannot afford to fuck up on something like this. Like, you just can't. If you're a ride operator, it's, like, so imperative that you do your job right. It's not like one of those, oh, you go to school and you miss a problem on a test kind of deal. Like in this situation, missing a problem on a test means a catastrophic failure for somebody's life.
Set up, but before giving it the okay, they had to check the safety restraints. The system seemed to be fully functional, and the safety light seemed to be working. They then checked the emergency stop button, which also worked properly, so the inspectors had one last job to do, which was to check all the electrics were working properly. They opened the electrical cabinet, but found a loose relay. After Joshua fixed this issue, they did another test run, but found that one of the passenger vehicles had stopped spinning. They left Joshua and his foreman, Timothy, to fix the issue. But Joshua did something truly foolish. Instead of finding the root cause, he simply put a jumper wire between 2 connections of the ride, which allowed the car to spin again. Whilst he did this, he purposely positioned the foreman in front of the inspectors so that they could not see this.
Wow, that's like negligence. That is like super hard negligence. So he basically like short-circuited, from what I'm understanding, and put a jumper here. So I guess the wire, I don't know if it's this wire or this wire, one of them wasn't work and he was just feeding power to the other one that wasn't working. And if you do that, you're going to cut down your power by half and it's going to fuck shit up. Why would they even allow you to do that? I mean, maybe for like testing purpose. That's so weird. Yeah, that's like willful negligence. That is not good. That guy's probably got hit pretty hard with a bunch of fines and jail time, I'd imagine. I guess we'll see.
The ride for operation, without knowing what Joshua had done.
That's
Little did they
super
know,
fucked up.
after the ride was given certification, the jumper wire Josh had installed had overrode the safety light sensors for that car, which meant it was always showing as locked, even when it wasn't. Leading up to the accident, the ride would have issues such as suddenly stopping mid-ride, and after it was repaired by the foreman, the lap bar restraint release button would also stop working. To fix this, after each ride cycle, the operators would have to open the electrical cabinet and use another jumper system to release the restraints. This brings us to the 24th of October 2013, and the
It's
ride
about
cycle of
10
the
years
Vortex
ago,
was coming
ish.
towards the end when something went wrong. It was 9:17 PM, and one of the last rides of the day had come to an end. As they had been doing for the previous 2 days, the ride operator that day, Timothy Dwayne Tuthrow, opened the electrical cabinet to release the locks, which he did, but once the riders began to leave the ride, it started up again. As all the restraints
Oh, they were like getting
this left
off of it?
bewildered passengers hanging onto the ride as it went up into the air and spun around.
Oh,
This caused some
wow.
of the riders to be thrown from the ride, some falling from over 25 feet.
Holy
Some others managed to
shit.
cling on, but it took longer than expected for the ride to stop, as Timothy was now panicking and didn't press the emergency stop button. Emergency services were on the scene straight away and transported the injured to hospital. 3 out of the 5 were seriously injured and were in critical condition. After everyone was evacuated, the ride was closed down and an
So
investigation
nobody
was
died.
launched.
That's good.
Almost straight away, investigators were on the scene taking photographs of the ride, which would show that all but one of the lap bars were in the open position. They quickly found the faulty control panel, with the green safety light restraint indicated, even though this shouldn't happen if any of the lap bars are in an open position. Joshua and Timothy were brought into questioning by the police, and it didn't take long for
Finally,
them to
not
find out
even
what
one
had
hit
gone
on me
wrong.
that time.
Timothy told investigators that safety was bypassed using the jump wires to make sure that the ride was going. Both Timothy and Joshua knew this was wrong, but did it anyway.
Yep.
Although Timothy had helped install the wires, he said he was told to by Joshua. The investigation
I'm
report
just doing
reads,
my job.
Based on the information collected,
That's his defense.
testing conducted during the investigation and witness statements, the safety restraint system on the Vortex was bypassed. This modification allowed the device to operate with the safety restraints unsecured, placing the public and the employees of the device in danger anytime they were near the device. Ride operator Tim Tuthrow admits that he jumped out the safety restraint for the left passenger carrier. Ride operators Tim Tuthrow and Omar Toranzo both admit to operating the ride while the safety restraint release button on the control panel was inoperable, and to operating with the ride when the green light remained on when the safety restraints were not in place. While Joshua Macaroni denies having placed the other jumper in the junction box,
That is
while
wild that his
having
last name
instructed
is
Tim Tuthrow
Macaroni.
to place the
I
jumper
still
in the
can't get over
junction
that.
box, Joshua Macaroni appears to have had actual knowledge that the safety system had been bypassed. Timothy was charged with 3 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, but a part of a plea arrangement, he was not sentenced to prison in exchange of a testimony against Joshua. He was, however, sentenced to 18 months probation. Joshua pled not guilty and placed the blame entirely on Timothy.
Sure.
Despite this, he was charged with felony obstruction of justice for bypassing the safety restraint system and was sentenced to 30 days in
Felony obstruction of justice by bypassing the restraint system. That's that doesn't sound right to me. Obstruction of justice by bypassing the restraint. Couldn't it be like, I don't know, obstruction of justice sound like, are restraints justice? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. If Super Shade were here, he'd probably know.
in jail and 24 months of probation. He was also fined and sued by the victims, who won their case for an undisclosed settlement. The victims were all aged 14 to 39, and thankfully all survived, but many have had long-term
that's
injuries
good.
that will stick with them
Oh,
for the rest of their
definitely.
lives.
100%.
30-year-old Anthony Gorman was comatose for several months, blinded
Shit.
in one eye, and has suffered seizures since the accident. His wife and 2 children were also injured in the accident. Anthony will require medical attention for the rest of his life.
Of course.
The ride would go on to be sold and eventually scrapped. Although Timothy has left the industry for good, Joshua Macaroni still owns an amusement park ride business to this day and has had several other incidents that would require another video to talk about.
Damn.
In the aftermath, fair officials have made changes in safety regulations.
Yeah.
As always, this is not an AI channel. I do everything myself.
That's good. I like that. There's a bunch of these that I'm thinking of something else that happened. I think it's actually this one. Because I've seen video of one of these, and there are people that just go flying. It is wild shit. All I remember is hearing the loud crash of the car snapping off the ride and people screaming and screaming,
To
stop,
everyone
stop,
who
stop.
knew him, Tyler Jarrell was a promising young man with everything going for him. On July the 26th, 2017, he planned a day out to the Ohio State Fair to help his girlfriend Kezia Lewis overcome the grief of losing her grandfather in the weeks prior. Unfortunately, that day
Get
would
her
end
mind
in
off of
horrific
it.
disaster when the ride known as the Fireball malfunctioned, throwing multiple people off the ride and towards
This
the
is what
ground
I was
below.
thinking of.
This resulted in devastating and deadly consequences, which the investigation
Oh, he
found could
doesn't
have
show
more
it
than
there,
likely been
probably because of
avoided.
YouTube.
So,
There is
what
video
happened
out there
that
of
fateful
it.
day at the Ohio State Fair?
Yeah, Ohio.
Let's
yeah.
talk about
Is
it.
that where
This
you're
is
around?
the Fireball disaster, the infamous death of Tyler Jarrell.
Yeah. The video is out there. And it's...
Tyler Jarrell was
it's
born
pretty
to
messed
parents
up.
Amber Duffield and Anthony
You don't really
Jarrell on
see
April
any
16th,
aftermath, but...
1999, in Columbus, Ohio. Tyler
No?
was an avid Manchester
Oh,
United
okay.
fan and was liked by pretty much everyone who met him. He was a member of the Columbus Division of Police Explorer program and was known in his community for always helping others before himself. It was obvious the type of person Tyler was by the way his employees described him. A fellow co-worker at the McDonald's he worked for said, Tyler was a great employee, but more importantly, he was a kind and loving soul. He always went the extra mile and loved to keep people laughing. It was at this job Tyler met his girlfriend Kezia Lewis, in which both parties fell madly in love with each other. Just a week before July the 26th, Tyler had enlisted to join the Marines and passed his physical. His friend Dylan Evans said he wanted to serve his community in some way, and eventually he enlisted in the Marines because he decided he wanted to serve his nation. Tyler had his whole life ahead of him, in which he could have done anything he wanted.
It's gonna be tragic.
Sadly, this was all ripped away following a tragic disaster at the Ohio State Fair in July of 2017.
It's always a
The
risk.
Ohio State Fair is an annual event held in Columbus, Ohio. The fair typically takes place in July to early August and lasts about 2 weeks. It's a celebration of agriculture, industry, entertainment, and the rich cultural heritage of Ohio. The Ohio State Fair has its origins dating back to 1850. This makes it one of the oldest state fairs in the United States.
Didn't he say that about the
Over
North
years,
Carolina one?
The fair has grown
Or
and
is that
evolved,
like the
becoming a
oldest
significant
North
annual
Carolina one?
event. It has become a cherished tradition for people of Ohio and visitors, celebrating the state's history, heritage, and progress. The addition of amusement rides to the Ohio State Fair likely occurred gradually over the years as the fair evolved and modernized.
Oh, I need the
Today,
bug catching
the fair
that.
features a diverse range of amusement rides
I don't have
to
that
cater
yet.
to fairgoers of all ages. The specific line of rides can vary from year to year as new attractions are introduced and older ones may be retired. The fair has the typical rides you'd expect, such as roller coasters, Ferris wheels, and carousels. And in 2017, one such ride featured at the show that year was the intimidating Fireball.
Looks fun.
The Fireball ride, originally named the Afterburner, was designed by Dutch company KMG in 1998. Since its debut, the ride has become one of the most popular and spectacular rides that a fairground can offer. The Fireball is a type of amusement ride known as a pendulum or swinging ship ride.
Yeah.
It is designed to simulate the sensation of swinging back and forth on a ship's deck. The ride consists of a large, boat-shaped gondola that is suspended from a tall support structure by a swinging arm. Riders sit in rows facing each other across the gondola. The ride's structure consists of 4 substantial supports that uphold a central hub at its pinnacle. These supports are affixed to 2 trailers housing water tanks, serving as stabilizing weights for the ride. From the hub is a swing arm attached to a wheel. The claw mechanism features 6 arms, to each of which gondolas are fastened. Each gondola accommodates 4 seats, meaning the ride has a capacity of 24 passengers. The
That's
safety restraint for
probably
the ride
like
includes
a lot of
large,
force when you're
over-the-shoulder
spinning. That looks
harness
like a
to
very
hold
large
occupants in
ride.
place. The claw rotates while the swing goes up to 65 feet high at a 120-degree angle. Following the ride's
Damn.
triumph, numerous other
Not
companies
quite
swiftly
vertical,
developed
but
their
nearly.
own renditions of the fireball. These would all come into scrutiny after the horrific event that happened on July the 26th, 2017. A year before the incident, in October 2016, the fireball had its annual inspection at the Coastal Carolina Fair. According to reports, this was an ultrasonic inspection of the gondola pins, and no defects were found. On the morning of the 26th of July, the ride had a routine standard inspection, which again, it passed. That day, Tyler, along with his girlfriend Kezia Lewis, attended the Ohio State Fair after a difficult day for Kezia, who had just attended her grandfather's funeral. It was opening day of the fair, and they went to take their
Ooh,
mind
look
off
at
things
that.
and enjoy themselves, which they
That's
had
a cool looking roller coaster. I don't know if I've seen anyone talk about that. That's actually kind of neat.
been doing. It was now
Ooh,
getting into
funnel
the early
cakes. I
evening,
love funnel
and
cakes.
around 7:15
Who
p.m.,
doesn't?
Tyler and Kezia boarded the
It's
fireball,
fried bread and powdered
unbeknownst
sugar.
of the horror that was about to occur. The two got on and were fastened in by an operator. The ride then began and started to swing back and forth. At approximately 7:20 p.m., something went horribly wrong. Whilst swinging back and forth, the ride suddenly malfunctioned, resulting in one of the passenger seat
There it
cars to
is.
break off and go plummeting towards the ground.
Yep.
One witness said, "All I remember is hearing the loud crash of the car snapping off the ride, and just people screaming and screaming and screaming." Another said, "Next thing you know, there's a big jerk, the seat flying through the air, there's people flying through the air,
Yep.
and then it's not stopping, and then suddenly it comes to a stop and just jerks." Tyler's seat was thrown violently in the air, and then he fell face first. Tyler fell at such a force that he was killed instantly.
Damn.
7 others were injured, including Tyler's girlfriend Kezia. 4 of the injured were transported to the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center, with the remaining 3 taken to Ohio Health Grant Medical Center. The ride was then closed down, and an investigation was launched. Immediately following the incident,
Stops it
Governor
right
John
before it
Kasich
happens.
ordered all fair rides at the show to be shut down. He said, "I am terribly saddened by this incident, by the loss of life, and that people were injured enjoying Ohio State Fair. Our
Sure.
thoughts and prayers go out to those grieving and injured. I have ordered a full investigation into the incident and have ordered that all fair rides be shut down until additional safety inspections can be completed. After this, fairground rides across the country similar to the Fireball closed down for inspection." Amusements of America, who are responsible for operating the fair's rides, resumed ride operations and released a statement attributing the accident to the ride itself, rather than errors on the part of operators or inspectors. They said, "The decision to shut down similar rides around the world and reopen the Ohio Midway indicates that this is an issue with a specific ride and not the ride operator or
It's like a
inspectors.
freak
There is no
accident.
evidence that operator error played a role in this accident. We continue to keep those affected by this tragic
Unlike
accident
that
in our
guy that
prayers
bypassed
and
the
work
power.
cooperatively with the ongoing investigation." The investigation into the accident involving the Fireball found that excessive corrosion on a support beam was the primary cause of the catastrophic failure
Sure.
that led to the accident. The corroded beam eventually gave way under the stress of the ride's operation, resulting in the tragic disaster. Led by experts in engineering and amusement ride safety, the investigation determined that the corrosion had severely compromised the ride's structure, resulting in failure. This led to the detachment of
just
Tyler's
old.
seat and ultimately his death. As a result of the investigation, there was a heightened focus on safety regulations,
And it's probably like they probably couldn't see the corrosion because of the ride paint as well. It's just like one of those weird freak accidents. It just didn't seem like it was anyone's fault, and even like the most, I don't know, the most thorough inspection may have not even seen it, again because of the paint, just is corroding under that paint. Maybe water gets in there, it starts to rust a little bit, something like that. Yeah, it's just a tragic thing.
Inspections and maintenance procedures for amusement rides across the industry. One former worker at the fair who chose to remain anonymous claimed that they had countless issues with the fireball leading up to Tyler's death. Not only did he say that it wasn't inspected properly, but he said that he wouldn't let his own child ride it after years of neglect by park workers.
Yeah, that's probably
no
true
criminal
too.
charges were ever brought against the Ohio State Fair or the ride owners, but Tyler's family did file a wrongful death lawsuit. The family ended up winning the lawsuit and were ultimately awarded $1.2 million. Of the $1.2 million settlement, around $870,000 was divided between the parents, with the remainder covering funeral expenses, attorney fees, and other case-related costs. Kezia, Tyler's girlfriend, woke up in hospital days later.
She's
Tragically,
lucky she survived.
Her mother had to break the news to her daughter that her boyfriend was dead. Her mother said she kept asking for her boyfriend, and I had to tell her he was the one who was deceased. She underwent 2 operations after damaging her pelvis, ankles, and ribs. Although she spent a lot of time in a wheelchair, even being told that she may never walk again, she went on to make a full recovery.
Good for her.
And graduated from university this year.
Good
After
for
his
her.
death, Tyler's mother led the fight in implementing Tyler's Law, which was a bill designed to strengthen safety inspection standards. She said, "I wish I would have seen his graduation from high school and all the milestones he has missed. A little bit of everything I do is for Tyler, especially all the big things that are fun. Like, I'm going on my first cruise, and it's my first time out of the country, and so I plan on going to see him at his grave beforehand and after to tell him everything about it." The Marine Corps also extended their sympathies to the family and friends of Tyler Jarrell by saying, "Our heartfelt condolences go out to Tyler Jarrell's family and all those affected by his loss. The Marines here are greatly saddened by this tragedy. We are truly proud to have known him as one of the brave few willing to step up and serve his country in the United States Marine Corps." Tyler's funeral was held at Green Lawn Cemetery, which saw hundreds of mourners show up to show tribute to Tyler and his
2017-99, that
family.
was what?
Although Tyler's death was absolutely tragic, the implementation of Tyler's Law has no doubt strengthened regulations
Pretty
across
young.
Ohio in relation to fairground rides. May he rest in peace. I hope his family, Kezia, and all the other victims that were affected that day are doing much better now. Let me know what you think about this case in the comments below.
Yeah,
This is not an AI channel, I do all of this myself.
That's sad, but at least girlfriend kind of lived. Yeah, we watched the Varuk thing. I'm probably not gonna watch that again. I watched it on another channel. Let's see. Yeah, hold on, give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Okay. Oh, Bob Newhart just died. Son of a bitch. That sucks. Oh, shit. I'm not even doing that. That blows. He was really old, though, to be completely fair. 94. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Synthesis complete.
All right, sorry. Go get a new, another drink with this raspberry flavoring. Put it in my tea. Raspberry. I love raspberry. But all right. Let's see. What do we got here? Let's watch this. Why retro graphics just hit different. I'm curious. I'll bite.
I recently got insanely lucky and found this near mint condition CRT TV for just 25 bucks. Homie was literally keeping it in his garage, and yet it's not even dusty.
Damn,
and after
that's
digging through
nice.
the deepest depths of my closet and finally finding the right cables, I was able to hook up my old Sega Genesis and PlayStation 2 and re-experience my favorite childhood games in all their retro glory. So today I want to explore why, in the age of endless legacy sequels, HD collections, remakes, remasters, reignited trilogies, anniversary editions, and even emulation, we are still going out of our way to experience video games that are older than us through the dated and objectively less capable hardware available at the time, and why we continue to recreate those experiences in the games we make
God,
today.
Sonic
First and
Mania is
foremost,
so good.
remakes sometimes just miss. So much of what makes a game great comes down to presentation. Would Metal Gear Solid be as celebrated as it is if it had the exact same gameplay but static images and text boxes instead of cutscenes?
Nope.
It's Snake. I'm in front of the disposal facility.
Not those. Those are cool. And actually, Metal Gear Solid 1
And I get
already
this,
had
'cause
a
I
remake
played
that
this
dropped the ball
recently.
in presentation. The Twin Snakes is often panned by Metal Gear fans for its absurdly over-the-top cutscenes, which is saying a lot by Metal Gear standards, and its features carried over from MGS2's gameplay that don't translate well to the design structure of MGS1. But in all honesty, the action scenes are
I need to
really
beat
fun to watch,
MGS2.
and the gameplay
I should be
changes and
playing
removal
that instead of
backtracking
this
are
right
actually
now.
really engaging from a speedrunner's perspective. The reason I hardly ever find myself returning to Twin Snakes comes down solely to its presentation. I'll often return to MGS1 specifically to enjoy the atmosphere. The compressed voices and cold green portraits on the codec mixed with snow falling and the sound of the wind howling, it makes me want to turn off the heat in the winter and wrap up in a blanket
Yeah.
burrito and see my breath while I play. The Twin
I
Snakes
can
just
see
feels
why people like
sterile
that.
by
It's still not my favorite
Music
type
and
of
sound
game,
design
but
play
it was a
huge
good
part,
game,
but the
for
graphics
sure.
in particular. MGS2's graphic style was revolutionary at the time, and that game still holds up stylistically, but its style slapped on top of MGS1 just doesn't translate. The anniversary
Sure.
edition of Halo CE is guilty of this too. I like the look of Halo Reach, and I don't think that game would be improved if it switched places with Halo CE's flat, polygonal style, but there are entire video essays about how the Halo Reach graphics that were ported in for the anniversary edition of the game ruined the presentation and atmosphere
I
of
mean,
Mission
I don't
343
know.
Guilty Spark, which was originally framed almost more like something out of a horror game than a first-person shooter, but got cleaned up and sterilized in the remake. I'd also argue the anniversary
guess.
graphics are dissonant with Halo 1's level design, much of which is essentially copy and pasted rooms that give a sort of labyrinthian feel to the levels. As a kid, I liked
Sure.
getting lost playing Halo, but as an adult, the visual clarity helps me to keep my bearings. And it's the simple and utilitarian graphics that make the in-game architecture feel simple and utilitarian. In the
I need to
anniversary
stop hitting
graphics,
those.
the added detail starts to become distracting visual noise that ironically calls a lot more attention to the copy and pasted nature of the design. And I find myself getting lost in that visual clutter more often. I find this loss of the
I
OG
don't know.
sauce to be true
I like
pretty
the
much
new
every major
graphics.
remake that comes out. Sure,
I
I
don't really have
love
a
the
strong
Spyro
feeling
Reignited
one way or the
trilogy, and
other.
at 4K, it's one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. But I'll be honest, it kind of looks like a Fortnite mod. Despite the limitations of hardware, almost every
Nothing wrong
video
with
game
that.
made before the late 2000s had something distinct about its art style. And to be
He's
clear,
right, though.
it's
I know
not
what he's
just a matter of they don't
talking
make
about.
games like they used to. It's a matter of simplicity, because simplicity is deceptively flexible and simplicity is timeless. It doesn't matter
Yep,
if it's the
he's
8-bit
right.
sprite art of Shovel Knight or the hand-drawn dreary look of Hollow Knight. Both use self-imposed limitations to enhance their respective experience. Sonic Superstars already looks more dated than Sonic Mania, in my opinion. Melee is a great example as well. Yes, when
That's
you compare
true.
the gameplay footage, you can see that Brawl has the technically superior graphics, but does anyone really wish that Melee was as, well, gray as Brawl is? That might be a separate issue, though. I swear, there was a time from like 2006 to 2010
Brawl has the
where every
tripping
game thought
mechanic
it was
nobody
cool to look as
likes.
boring and desaturated as possible. Even a game called Sonic fucking Colors looks flat and lifeless compared to Sonic Generations that came out just a year later. But even then, Fallout 1 and 2 have flat coloring and these ugly-ass clay models and just overall look like complete shit. And I fucking love it. Look at Medieval. This animation looks like dookie butt cheeks, and I can't get enough of it. The later Fallout games, realism. The Medieval remake, Fortnite. And I've got to admit, nostalgia does play a part. You know, back in the cartridge era, your games were saved, if the game even had a save function, on the cartridge itself. When I set up my new CRT and booted up my copy of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, my jaw dropped when I saw
my favorite
saves
platformer of all
time. There was
time.
a time when
Sonic
I
3
stopped
and
in the middle
Knuckles.
of the adventures this cartridge was taking me on for the last time. Well, I
Yeah.
don't remember what that last time was. The
I'm
cartridge
sure he will.
remembers. And on my shelf, the cartridge has waited. I can't talk about how cool
So
retro
good.
games are and not take a moment to appreciate that experience. But graphically, there's something beyond that. If you really want to get nitpicky, there are some subtle gameplay differences in the Sonic Origins collection, for example, to how the original games played. But even if the gameplay were exactly the same, or somehow objectively better, I'd still go out of my way to play the originals. In fact, I even have a PS2 game called Sonic Mega Collection that is
I have
celebrated for having the most faithful ports of the Genesis Sonic games of any collection before or since, and I can even play it on my CRT, and yet it still doesn't quite hit the spot, the same as shoving the cartridge my dad gave me when I was 4 years old into a Genesis and booting up the original.
It's like
hardware.
listening to a
It's
song
not
on a
just the
vinyl.
nostalgia.
There's
Even
something
the way
about
the
it.
Genesis, the PS2, and modern systems display the graphics is different. I love pixel perfect emulators and super
Mania?
sharp visuals for
I
modern
go back and
based
forth.
games, but games designed on
I think Mania
CRTs
probably
had
is a little bit better.
CRTs in mind when their art was made in a way that even
But I
modern
think
stuff
I
doesn't take into
like Sonic 3 and Knuckles more. Maybe. It's a back and forth thing. I say that with like Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. Chrono Trigger's objectively the better game, but I like Chrono Cross more. But they're both amazing. So I mean it's always vying for the top of my list. Sonic Mania and Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
consideration. Look at these waterfalls in Green Hill Zone, for
It
example.
really
With
depends on the day.
pixel-perfect look, we can see that all it is a foreground layer of every other pixel being a line of water, and each of those lines has a cycle of shades of blue to simulate falling water. Looks neat and all as it is, but when we boot up the Sonic Mega Collection version on a CRT, something cool happens.
Yeah,
There's color bleed from the lines of water into
blends
the neighboring
together.
pixels, and from the neighboring pixels into the water
Chrono
lines.
Trigger?
And
Yeah,
so
I
suddenly
mean,
we
most
see
people
this
do, for
beautiful
sure.
mist of water overlaid on top of the mountain behind it. It goes even one step further when we boot up the Genesis version. The digital noise in the video signal from the Genesis
Yep.
creates a distortion when the colors blend that gives this almost rainbow effect of the water's mist. No scanline filter on a 4K TV is going to emulate that. You don't just remember
wrong.
pixel art games looking better, they looked better. But there's one more reason we keep coming back to retro game graphics that I've never seen anyone talk about. Have you ever thought about why, in a time where people can barely be bothered to go see a movie in theaters
forgot what
anymore,
she told
that
me to do.
live performance theater still survives?
I gotta get her
There's probably
scale
entire
back, I
video
think.
essays here on YouTube talking about why that is, but one of the major contributing factors that makes the experience of theater unique is live theater's distinct level of abstraction. The level of abstraction of any given art form is the gap between
Yep.
what you see and hear and what your imagination fills in. When you read a book, the experience of the story is shaped almost entirely by your imagination, whereas a movie is more concrete and predetermined. And we only have to
He's
suspend our
right.
disbelief so much as to accept what we
110%.
see on screen to be the world the characters live in. If we ever see the actors as real people playing pretend, we lose our emotional investment. So when we see live
That's
theater
funny.
and are forced to ignore that these people are standing in front of us wearing microphones, but are somehow unaware that they are in a room full of people watching them, our reward as the audience for putting in that extra effort to suspend our disbelief is higher engagement and investment in the story. After all, what better way to make something more personal than by having it be partially a product of your own imagination? So then it all comes back to video games. The more abstract a game's visuals are, the more work your mind has to do to accept the game's reality.
Sure.
And the more engaging to your imagination the game will be. When I was a kid, I used to look to the cities and the mountains in the background of
That being
Zone and
said,
Sonic 1 and think about what kind of people lived there.
I used to do that as well. That being said, it's really, really commendable, and they did this in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that came out earlier this year. That game looks like how my child imagination remembers it looking for PlayStation 1, with him talking about how your mind like will construct the game world like when you remember it. It's so much, I don't know, like it's so much more detailed in your mind. But then like I said, when I went back and played Rebirth, that is how I remember the original Final Fantasy VII looking, and I know like it definitely does not look like that. So you have to like commend people whenever they make like a remake, and it's just as good visually anyway as you think that you remember it.
And what it would be like to climb those mountains. I can still just stare off into the distance in the PlayStation Spyro games for hours and appreciate the skyboxes and all of the possible wonders that lie beyond them. I subjectively find these skyboxes alone more beautiful than any landscape found in the Reignited trilogy. The Halo 2 anniversary cutscenes are beautifully rendered and incredibly captivating, but nothing in any new Halo game is ever going to beat the feeling of walking out of the downed Pelican and seeing the bending horizon of the Halo ring for the first time. It's the reason the first Zelda game still feels like the most magical and mysterious entry in the franchise, and why the original
Zelda 2 to
much
me.
more lonely and isolated than its sequels. Speaking of which, this gap between what you objectively experience through your senses and what your imagination fills in is where the entire horror genre lives. After all, the best way to keep a horror movie engaging is to never show the monster. I promise not to show jump scares or any gross
Your
out stuff
mind
in this
will
video,
make
by the way,
up
but it's worth
something
mentioning the
far
correlation
scarier than
between
anything
lack
that
of
somebody
graphical
could show you.
definition in horror games and how subjectively scary we find those games to be. A lot of people find the PlayStation era Silent Hills and Resident Evils to be scarier than anything that came after. And the scariest game I've ever played is Power Drill Massacre, which emulates the graphics of the PlayStation era. You go a step further and you get LSD Dream Emulator, a PlayStation game exclusive
I was
to
gonna play
Japan
that recently. I might play that this year in October.
Through environments inspired by a dream journal the developer kept. A step further than that, and you get Dwarf Fortress, which has no distinctly defined graphics. Step further than that, you get Zork, and a step further than that, you get Dungeons and Dragons. Everyone has their preferences, but just like there's room in the world for endless amazing books and movies, there's always going to be value in games across the spectrum of abstraction, from realistic simulators all the way to D&D. And in the space between is where retro games scratch an itch unlike anything else. And if you're like me and you have a deep appreciation for retro games, check out my video, Cool Details and Secrets in Sonic 1. It's on screen now, where I talk about just some of the lesser known things that make the original Sonic.
I'll bite.
Why do we keep coming back to the
I'll
original
give him a
Sonic
sub.
the Hedgehog?
Oh, I
There's
already
not
am.
much that this game does that its sequels don't do better. And now we live in a world of constant new games, movies, and even YouTube videos. And yet this 33-year-old game is still able to hold our attention. I could go on and on about the core gameplay or the level design, but that's not what sets it apart from its sequels. Instead, I want to take the time to share the smaller details that go underappreciated, because I'm still discovering or learning something new about this game every time I play it. And I think that's part of the magic that makes it a truly timeless classic. Sonic 1 had a much longer development time than its sequels, so what it lacks in focus that came with an
I'm not a
established
big fan
formula,
of
it
Sonic
makes up
1.
for
I
it
mean, I
via
like
variety.
it, but
Take the zone concepts, for example.
2
Sure,
and
the other
3
games
are
have
way
more
better.
level variety and imaginative locales than the original, but unlike Sonic 2, which has a fairly random assortment, Sonic 1 attempts to tell its story through its levels. The intention was that Sonic would start his journey in lush, beautiful hills, then make his way through long abandoned.
That's only partially true. Sonic 2, for whatever reason, also did that, but like they had to cut some levels and then they rearranged a bunch of shit. So like Sonic 1, 2, and 3 do that like story level progression. It's just that for whatever reason in Sonic 2 and 3 they like switched some levels around. So it does seem like far more random, but it's not. And in fact, there's Sonic 3 Complete, which reinstates the levels in the original order that they were supposed to be experienced, and it's pretty great. Like Sonic 3, there's flying battery zone, and at the end of that zone, like, you kick off the door, and that door is your snowboard whenever you get out of that flying ship and you land in the ice cap zone. So that was like completely fucking switched around, and it doesn't really make sense how they did it in the officially released game, but whenever all that shit is restored, it definitely tells you a story like Sonic 1 does.
Ruins, then a slightly less ruined castle, before approaching Eggman's highways, cities, and factories to put a stop to his industrialization. Of course, this isn't actually the level order they went with, though you can still see this order reflected in the level select in the original game. The problem came when the devs actually played the game and realized that Labyrinth was way too hard to be the second level, so they instead went with the level order we're all familiar with. This time they decided to prioritize giving the player a sense of variety in the pacing. See, Sonic 1 was the world's first introduction to the
I didn't know that they did that with Sonic 1, so that's actually
Sega
new
were
to me.
worried that what made Sonic fun and unique would be alienating for first-time players in 91. So they gave players a taste of the high-octane pinball action in one stage, then a more traditional platforming obstacle course in the next. So while Marble, Labyrinth, and Scrap Brain tend to drag on when we play the game these days, they were much more welcome and comfortable additions when the game came out, especially when you consider what contemporary platformers looked like at the time.
I
To me,
actually
what
like
really
Marble
makes these levels
Zone.
stand apart is their secret
A lot of people
areas.
don't,
While
though.
Sonic 2 streamlined the level design considerably, and Sonic CD and Sonic 3 gave much more extrinsic motivation to explore, something about Sonic 1's secrets feel much more secret, like we weren't supposed to find them. If you take the lower route in Green Hill Act 3, you'll come across a spring that jumps you back up to the rest of the level, and a row of
You can
spikes
jump
past
over
it
it,
to tell
though,
you that
yeah.
you've reached a dead end.
I remember
But if you're
when
feeling
I first learned
particularly
about that.
rebellious, you can carefully jump past the spikes and land behind the waterfall, where you'll find 5 ring monitors and an extra life, though sadly the spring and spikes thereafter really are a dead end. Each act in Marble Zone has a tunnel hidden in the castle walls that leads to a room with a 1-up. In Act 1, it's on the other side of one of the spike elevators. In Act 2, it's a consolation prize if you miss the jump up to the
Yep.
ledge above it. And in
Which
Act
I've
3,
done.
it's past another
Think most
spike
of us have.
elevator, and it skips a huge chunk of the level. Spring Yard Act 2 has this weird tunnel in the lower route that feels like you've accidentally clipped out of bounds and like entered the
You go
Sonic
into the
back
back
rooms or
rooms.
something until
Hey,
you crush
he
your
did it.
rings and realize this is a real
Sonic
part of
back
the level that
rooms set
somebody
up at the
designed.
exact
It's not
same
much of a
time.
shortcut, but it does give you easy access to the shield monitor. In the same level, there's a ramp near the end that gives you a split second to make a jump up to a route with a ton of extra rings just before the signpost. My favorite secret area, though, is found in Labyrinth Zone. Near the beginning of
Wait,
Act
did I
1,
not
you fall into
get
this
the
pool
gem?
and come across a room with 2 doors, 2 switches, and 2 elevators that lead straight into spikes in the ceiling. The
Shit, I'm
switches
not
open
paying
the doors
attention.
in the
I don't know
room,
what I
the
need
left
to
one
do
leading to
now.
a room with some rings, and the right
Uh-oh.
one leading deeper into the level. But what very, very few people would ever know is that if you press the left switch, but then ride the elevators up and very carefully jump back up to the surface of the water, the switch will have activated a hidden platform that will
I
take
didn't
you
know that.
across the pool and into a tunnel that serves as a shortcut that skips
Huh.
most of the level. They even added
I had
a
no idea.
singular ring to this hidden route in later releases of the game so that you could still get exactly 50 rings and go to the special stage if you took this shortcut. Labyrinth Act 3 has a shortcut as well.
Cool.
Near the beginning of the level, there's this room with the pikes that has a block that falls if you stand on it. We instinctively avoid falling blocks because we associate them with danger, but if you fall down here, you're taken to a tunnel you have to carefully navigate to eventually get spit out just before the last checkpoint before the boss. That's not the only clever thing about Labyrinth Act 3 either. You may have noticed if you ride the water slide at the beginning that you can ride it forever and ever and it will just keep looping. This is because the game is programmed to seamlessly loop the bottom of the level to the top,
Yeah.
as long as there
What?
not supposed to be a death pit. There's a few levels that do this all over classic Sonic, like Metropolis and Sandopolis, and all of them make use
Yeah.
of some repeating indoor abstract background. to
I
hide
hate
the vertical
Metropolis
looping.
Zone.
This is used
It's
again
like my
at the
least
end of the
favorite
level
zone.
to climb to the chase with Eggman. It makes the level feel impossibly tall compared to what would have otherwise been possible with the Genesis hardware, when we're really just starts looping from the top of the level back to the bottom before chasing Eggman back to the top again. This
Oh,
makes it
there's
feel
the
like we're desperately
stone
climbing
right
our way
there.
out of the ruins deep underground to emerge in Starlight Zone. Most people groan when they find out that Scrap Brain Act 3 is just a return to Labyrinth's visuals, level structure, and gimmicks. But for me, I really wouldn't have the end of this game any other way. It just makes so much sense thematically. The idea that this island had a rich culture and history that Eggman is corrupting and then literally burying by building on top of it. I especially
That's
like
fair.
the altered
He
color
makes a
scheme
good
with the gray
point.
and green, making it feel like Scrap Brain, and the cartoonishly toxic looking purple water you don't want to spend too much time in. The water doesn't hurt you
Ryan, what are
directly,
you
but
doing?
they added an extra layer of sadistic urgency by making it so that air pockets are fewer and farther between, and the
I hate
bubbles
that level.
actually spawn less often. But if you still really hate this level, you can skip most of it with another shortcut I'm about to show you. When you first fall down here, there's this strange platform that you lower to access the rest of the level. If you press the button to activate it and then quickly roll under the ceiling to fall between it and the connecting platform, you'll
I
fall
knew
down
that.
into this area that cuts through the level and gives you access to this room from above, which means it's just a short climb up to Final Zone from there. I skipped over one last secret area though. This one actually blew my mind because I found out about it while making this video. When I was a kid, I sucked at video games, so a lot of my time playing the original Sonic games was spent messing around in debug mode and exploring the levels. I found some of these secret areas that way, but some of them, like the Labyrinth one, I didn't know how to access by normal means. And the one that I never figured out was this teleporter in Scrap Brain Act 2. It leads to an upper route that you can't access any other way, and none of the other teleporters in the level seem to lead to it.
I think I've
It's
heard
placed
about
just
this.
above this one. This one is where you end up if you take this one earlier in the level. I've made hacks of the original Sonic games before, so even in breaking open the source code, I never stumbled upon what this teleporter is here for. Now, 20-something years later, I finally learned what to do with a hint from an achievement in Sonic 1 Forever. You have to take this particular route through the level that isn't even the fastest or easiest way through the level and play near perfectly so you can collect and keep 50 rings before making it to this teleporter. And then if you
Okay.
enter it, it will take you to the first destination and then immediately warp you up to the second one. There's nothing in the game or any of the manuals in any language that even hint that this is possible. And there's no reason to believe that collecting 50 rings is going to change something in this particular level. But I checked, and sure enough, that's how it works in the original 1991 release.
I
These
had no
sort of
idea about
cryptic
that either.
secrets that we feel like we were never supposed to find aren't considered good game design by today's standards. And
They're
they're already
fun.
falling out of favor by this era, which is why the secrets in the sequels feel much more intentional and straightforward. But there's something about this design philosophy that feels special, even magical. If any of my friends came to school and told me they had found a way to skip Labyrinth Act 1, I wouldn't have believed them. But if I went home and tried it, or they came
People will
over and
never
showed me
have
and I
those
saw it for
conversations
myself,
on
my mind
playgrounds
would have been
again where you like
blown.
get
Sonic
together
1
and
may
like,
not
oh, I
be
found
just
this
straight
and I
up
found
as
this.
fun as the games that came after it, but there's
Nobody will
something
ever
to be
do that
said
again.
about a game I've played hundreds of
Sad times.
explored up and down, even looked at its source code, and yet I'm still learning new things about it. While it may not be considered conventional game design, it's these kinds of details and secrets that made video games feel like real, living worlds that we were peering into instead of games designed to be beaten. I've kind of noticed this on
I've actually noticed that myself. Like, I'll catch myself being like, why did they put a room here that's completely useless? That doesn't make sense to me. And, like, before modern gaming, I wouldn't have given it a thought. But now I'm like, okay, well, clearly they had a point, because why would they do something like that just to do it? And they would do something like that just to make the game feel more like organic. Like, there's not always something in every room, even though that's weird. It just, there's not.
on YouTube as well. These days, YouTubers are discouraged from putting, inside jokes or Easter eggs in their videos because it supposedly alienates viewers that don't get the joke or the reference, whatever. But while I definitely don't think we have to be smug about it and have it distract from the video, I think these cheeky jokes and hidden details add depth to what we make and really strengthen the experience for the viewers who do feel smart for paying close
It's a
attention.
really good
or
video.
Who do feel seen
I agree
for
with them
hearing a reference
100%.
to an obscure game or anime they like. It also helps our creations, whether they be games, videos, music, whatever, feel wholly ours, like no one else could have made them but you and I. And I think that's neat. I'd like to know what are some of your favorite secrets and hidden details in video games. And if this video hasn't quite inspired you to create something today, click the video on screen now to hear why I think you should become a creator, and some more about why I appreciate Sonic 1 while we're at it.
That's interesting. All right, I'm gonna jump off of here and go
I
get some
recently got
food or something, and then I'll be back later. Maybe the internet will have come up with something more for me to watch. It's a good channel though. He's fairly small creator too, 21.8k subs. I'll throw his channel in the chat because he deserves it. Very, very cool videos. Anyway, I'll put these up on my my YouTube description as well, but I'll be back in a few hours. So take it easy. Get some food, have some fun, maybe, I don't know. Stay safe. I'll talk to y'all later.